It's Friday, May 10th, 2024. Thing that Lando just did. Nobody will hear on the actual show, but yeah, that was, yeah, you should
you didn't like my
you should do that. You should just do a loop of you saying words like that and put them on
voice.
put them on YouTube or something, or TikTok. And I would,
yeah, you know what, I found out that my
bet money that if you just literally recorded, this is the stuff that gets a lot of traction there. If you just record a word where you lean really close to the mic and you say something, any word, you could literally take a diction. You should take the dictionary. And the first video, and not with you, but just like the first thing you put is just you reading the title of the dictionary and the year, and then do a word every week. Whatever time, same, and I bet you within a month, you have people that are watching that all the time. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it just to be a scumbag about it.
Yeah, go for it. I actually found out my...
Well, I can't because TikTok's banned me or something now, so whatever.
They banned you?
I don't know.
What did you do?
No.
Were you trying to put your genitals on the internet again?
No, listen. I did a 5 on this. And I basically said, this must be, I said that the puppet master is in the system and it's saying you are too old for this, get out. And it's you know, which, and then I watched Ghost in the Shell on 4K, man. Which holy shit does that thing look great on 4K. Anyway, because I thought that, so funny. Like, I have to watch Ghost in the Shell.
How long did that last before you got
2
kicked
weeks.
off?
And look, the thing is, now I'm going to try it again right now but the funny part about it, because and this is as close as I ever get to conspiracy theory stuff, but the day that Biden signed the bill into law is when it suddenly happened. So I almost wanted, see, here it is. I just tried it again. Your account was currently suspended, which is just, bad English translation. My hunch is that basically they looked at new accounts because my account was maybe 2 weeks old. And they were like, nope. Okay. If you're going to try to ban us, they probably think I'm a CIA account or something. I don't know how, but I think so. Because both accounts are the same day. And it's either that it says that suspended thing, or it says you've tried to log in too many times. Try again later, when it's the first time I've logged in like 2 days. So I don't know, but I said that's it. I'm done.
Unless like somebody's trying to hack your account.
Both at the same time with 2 different email addresses and passwords that are like 50 characters long. I mean, I guess, but I didn't get. But then in that case, I would think I would get like a bunch of your password has been reset or whatever. Somebody's trying to log in. You get those things. So I said, okay, that's the universe saying forget it, and then punching me in the face and saying don't worry about it, don't do it. So
that happens. You'll have to I totally believe that sometimes that the universe does that. What I was trying to say was
I would do that, but I can't.
My tattooist doesn't read. Like, he doesn't have the time to read. We were like talking about books and things. And I actually debated like doing an audiobook of my one book just to see if I could do it, because I have the recording equipment.
You should try it.
To do it. But like, I just don't know if I could. I just know if I can get through a whole chapter without massively fucking it up.
You could always just do the Gibson route and monotone it. Who cares?
Well, I'm not monotone. That's the problem. We'll see. I've debated it, but the whole thing about saying certain words is very funny. It is funny, yeah.
It would be amusing. I would certainly be interested in hearing it, but
what kind of?
So I rolled right over the promotional
people are
segment.
weird. Yeah.
They
Oh,
are.
sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, the nice part is it's really easy. If you'd like to support our show, go to supportourshow.com. There you go. It's done. And code Ozone, as far as I know, will still get you 2 months free on Libsyn if you would like to try out this waste of time. So that's the promotional segment over with. Let's see. What do I want to start with? I have 3 different things.
I don't think it's a waste of time. I don't think it's a waste of time as long as you do it with the right people.
Well, actually, you gave me a 4th thing to start with. I forgot about this.
Go ahead.
I probably will do a 5 on this as well because I was listening to this. It's funny you say that. It isn't a waste of time because you're right. I actually was listening to something and there were a couple of people that were talking about the fact that the one who was the host of the show was talking about the fact that he feels like he has to reinvent the show every so often because otherwise it gets stale. And then the other person who was a musician was talking about the fact that there are times where they felt like, okay, I've done this for too long and I have the urge to stop doing it. And I thought about the fact that it has never occurred to me in all the time we've done this to really ever mess with how the show works. Outside of the fact that we don't do topic lists anymore, which was an organic change.
I've been waiting for you to find a better co-host for years.
No, there is no better co-host. Nobody else would work long term. I've done the other things like the 5s and the late nights, but those are not changing.
Yeah,
that's something else.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is you've also experimented with lots of different formats.
Yeah, but the core show, it has never
Listen,
occurred to me to change the core show at all.
At the end of the day, this is just you and me hanging out talking shit.
Yeah, I
which
think
we do anyway.
Right. I think what is remarkable is that we've been able to just keep doing it. But like I said, I've never sat there and been like, once we hit 1,000 shows, maybe it's time to do something different. No.
I'll tell you something really funny though that I haven't told you yet because I was waiting for it to heal. I got the Ozone Nightmare symbol tattooed on my knee.
Oh my God! Ow! On the front?
Right on the front,
like a knee pad? Oh God!
You like it? Oh yeah. And the thing is, I didn't want it to be exactly your version of it. I wanted it to be like my version of it.
Oh God!
So I sat down and kind of came up with this idea with if the Ozone Nightmare symbol was like a magical glyph, what would it look like to me?
Ooh, that's intriguing.
And then I had that tattooed to my knee. I was waiting for it to.
Well, wait till it heals. Don't show me when it's all funky looking. I don't like that stuff.
Well, no, it's pretty not gnarly now.
Whatever.
But I was coming up with some stuff, and I always try to make my tattoos connected to things that are important in my life. Everything means something. Like my body is kind of like it's a mural of important symbols, and I was trying to come up with what to do, and then I was just I think it was right after you mentioned that we had done this for, I think it was 892 shows or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like,
4 right now.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? This has been in my life longer than my marriage has. I was like, it seems like it might be worth adding to the tapestry. Yeah. So I kind of came up with my own version, and I actually think it really came out pretty cool. So yes, it's this show is now part of my skin as well as my soul.
Wow.
And it'll pop up in your
because I thought about that and I said I'm going to end it at 895. So one more show and we're done.
Well, there you go. Hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. Even if the show ends tomorrow, it will have been part of my life for so long.
And that suddenly is one of us dies.
One of us dies.
Yeah, that's it. Which honestly, we're getting to the point where, hey, you never know.
Oh, whatever. You know what? When I don't get regular texts from you when I expect them, I look at my wife and go, "This is weird." Like
this is not normal.
Normally, Joe texts me like 3 hours before the show. It's like, "Hey, are we good for this time?" And I didn't get anything from you tonight. And I was actually sitting there and I was like, I haven't heard anything from him. I was like, is he okay? Because you have kind of a clockwork about you. So like whenever the clock goes off, I'm always like, what's going on?
Well, this was a little unusual because this is a rare Sunday where we didn't make pizza at home. We went out to they opened up a place with all food trucks, a food truck park, and I've been curious about it for a while. I was like, well, let's go look, and so literally when you texted me,
food trucks can be fun.
It was great. It was very good. Well, I mean, the pretzel that I had was outstanding. I mean, I had a whole selection of things, but the pretzel was really, really good. And, don't get me wrong. My wife said, "Oh, this is the best pretzel I ever had." I said, "Well, it's not the best pretzel I ever had, but it's really, really good."
I hope you had more than just a pretzel.
Oh, no. I had essentially a white calzone, so 3-cheese calzone, which is very good. Then I had a Dutch apple dough pocket, which is really just a dessert calzone, but they called it something else. And then I had the pretzel, and that was enough because they give you a lot with this stuff. But yeah, my wife's like, "Oh, it's the best pretzel I've ever had," and I'm like, and she said, "Oh, outside New York," and I said, "There you go." So because it's different. Well, it is because they're different. They make the pretzels are different out here. Don't get me wrong; they're really good, but they often use sweet dough. I don't know. There's a word for that, whatever it is.
Well, it's different. It's different. I mean, it's different water and different sugars, isn't it? Isn't that what it is?
Well, even if it was the same, they're using a sweetened dough. You can taste that there's a sweetness to it that New York pretzels do. Okay, I'm not gonna say nobody makes them, but generally pretzels are not sweet. It's not considered a sweet pretzel. You get a normal pretzel that tastes like dough and salt. That's it.
Yeah.
Hopefully with a little bit of a crusty kind of crunch on the back from the char. That's the New York pretzel. This is not that. This is more of, I wouldn't even call it California pretzel. I think it was I'm trying to remember what the name of the truck was. It might have been a Mexican food truck. I don't remember. It was good. I mean, it was good. Oh no, you know what's that place in the malls? Remember the mall, Auntie Annie's? Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah, Auntie. Yeah,
it's that type of pretzel, which is not I don't consider that a pretzel. That's a dessert pretzel. You know what I mean? Because it's sweet and it's slathered in butter, which New York pretzels are not. So it's a different thing. But as far as it's the best pretzel I've had in California without even thinking about it. Yeah. So. But that's why I was driving when you texted me, and my wife's like, "Do you have to get back to him?" I'm like, I'm not gonna use anything while I'm on the highway. As soon as I get to a stoplight, I will send him a message.
Whatever. Yeah, I figured if I hadn't heard from you, I would have gone onto the computer anyway.
I know in my head the rough amount of time before you're gonna go. Wait a minute, something's really wrong now. So I'm like, no. I'm like, we're not 30 minutes away. I don't have to respond right this second. As soon as we hit a stoplight, I have to tap this thing, talk into my watch, hit send, and it'll be fine. And that's exactly what I did. So, but yeah, there's definitely a timer there. Because I thought about that as we were driving back. I'm like, I'm going to get a text from him, I think, because I haven't checked in to make sure. Because we were kind of playing around with where we were going to go or not. And so the normal Sunday timeline was a little bit off on this end. So
yeah, but that gives you some idea of how synced up we are on this shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
oh, yeah.
and that's the weird thing. That's why we're still here. I mean,
no, my wife will say at night, at a certain point, she's like, because I'll say, "Oh, do you want to watch this?" And she will say, "Do you have time?" Because Lena's going to.
My wife does that to me too. Yeah. She's like,
so she says, "I don't think we have time to start this because you're going to have a date." And I'm like,
yes. My wife's like, you have your scheduled. Because that's the funny part is if we weren't doing.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you just got my knee.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
It's like a glyph. It's like a magical glyph.
Yeah, that's a very Alan Moore looking thing. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was going for. Because the thing is, I couldn't use your symbol the way it works because your symbol won't work with what's already on my body.
It wouldn't look good. Yeah.
It had to be something. Yeah. It had to be something tribal. But I like it because it's a negative tattoo too. He didn't just do the.
Yeah, it's very Spider Jerusalem looking.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm very Spider Jerusalem looking, aren't I?
That's true. You are. I mean, not in body form, but in tattoo.
No.
Yes.
No, I'm a jacked.
You're not a wiry, lanky, thing.
I used to be. I saw pictures of myself the other day, and I was all wiry and yanky.
Okay,
as
but
a kid.
that's a long time ago.
But that's a long time ago.
As a kid. Yeah. So was I as a kid. We all were. Well, not all, but a lot of us were a lot skinnier when we were kids.
Yeah. But yes, so we would still be doing this, and the thing is, because we game every night practically, like we would, and I was saying to my wife the other day, so Joe has a deep obsession with robbing everybody in Baldur's Gate, and sometimes when he gets really like, I'm gonna rob this fucker, there'll be a lot of reloads, right? Or we'll be reloading the game. And I was telling my wife tonight that I think we reloaded something tonight 20 times, something ridiculous. I can't remember what it was. And I was laughing about it, and she was like, "So you didn't do anything?" And I was like, "No, it's good." Because once we get into that mode, we just sit and talk shit, right. And then it's just us talking shit for like the whole time, and it becomes a whole other kind of funny experience. So, like I said, the podcast we just happen to hit record, is really what it is. And for that reason, whatever, we're still here.
Which is why also I could never play any of these multiplayer games where you just jump into a random group. They'd kill me. Because I'd be the one saying, no, let's reload. 80 times.
Yeah.
And the reaction would be, okay, let's find this person and send a SWAT team to his house because this is fucking ridiculous. So it would never happen.
No.
It would never happen.
No, it's more for, listen, I always like the idea that, especially like in Baldur's Gate, you're time travelers. That's your real power in that game. True. You're time travelers. You go back and forth. You do what you want. Yeah. In other games, our power is the fact that we're immortal. You kill us and we'll come right back.
Right.
You know, I always like the meta level to these games. You know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you got something.
Oh,
okay,
I have a couple
want to derail you.
One is very, very small. But
okay.
This is an interesting one.
Got it.
Were you aware? You may have known this. I don't recall having this specific. Now, I always knew that the 13th Warrior started off. I mean, the book is called Eaters of the Dead, and I knew that they had originally titled. Are you
gonna? Is this the whole fact that it's based on something real?
No, not that. No,
okay.
no, not any of that.
Okay.
Not that.
Yep.
So I knew that the book was called Eaters of the Dead. I knew that they had originally proposed that as the title and had changed it. I did not know two other things that are in between there. One, that as far as people are aware, the original cut before Michael Crichton destroyed it, or said, no, we're not doing this. The original John McTiernan cut exists completed.
Oh, what is the original cut?
Ah, okay, so then you don't know about this.
No, I don't know. No.
All right.
Is it longer or is it shorter?
I don't know that it's not, from what I understand, in terms of duration, massively different. But, for example, the McTiernan cut, you know the woman, the witch at the end, who Bolvi fights and she, poisons him?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. It was an old, heavy-set woman that he just easily decapitates, and they felt that was mean. And so Crichton came in and changed things that are not affecting duration, but significant.
Yeah, and the problem with Crichton is that Crichton has kind of a cinematic mind, so he would do that.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing.
Yeah.
Were you aware that they had released a trailer for that version?
Oh, that has clips from it?
No. For the original cut with the original title that was completed. Have you ever seen this thing?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Lando's going to watch this now. Because watching this, you can feel free to mute me because I think the sound is important. So you can mute me for the duration of this, and I'll just keep talking.
Go ahead.
It's only about a minute. So go ahead and watch it. So what Lando is watching, and I will, I will make sure, because if I don't do it now, I might forget. I tend to be this way. So let me go ahead and do a quick link. If I just type the words in, I'll know to do it. There we go. So Lando is watching the original teaser trailer that was completed for what later became the 13th Warrior, which was originally titled and has in the trailer the title Eaters of the Dead. And they felt, in addition to the fact that Michael Crichton didn't like it, they felt that title would be off-putting. But the important part about the trailer, which I'm linking in the show notes, is it comes off as a horror film. It's got a very specific sound it's using for its transitional pieces.
Oh, I see your meaning, yeah.
You see what? Okay, so did you mute me for all that?
No, I can listen to both.
Okay. It's very horror film based compared to...
Yeah, but you know what? It is kind of horror-y.
No, I want to see this. I want to see this badly. Don't get me wrong. I like what we got. But this really makes me wonder what the tone of it was going to be.
I do wonder to what degree McTiernan took it kind of in a more... I don't know. It's a question of what he was using, because the fact that Crichton actually made him reshoot stuff.
No. Crichton didn't make him do it. Crichton stepped in and did it for him. Crichton took over.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know he directed it.
Well, he didn't direct it. He directed the reshoots. Yeah. So essentially, from what I understand, if I'm looking through I want to see if they say how much was actually here. Oh shit! Here it is. The original version, known as Eaters of the Dead, directed by John McTiernan, was 127 minutes and slated to be released. When the film failed test screenings, Michael Crichton took over the project and reshot and added new material to the film.
Why did it fail? I wonder what aspect.
Not only that, the original score was by Graham Revell, rejected.
Ooh,
including the woman who sang on Gladiator. So essentially, we didn't get the Gladiator
What's her name?
soundtrack. Whatever her name is.
Yeah. Oh gosh, she's from.
But the movie was completed because they showed it to test audiences, so it is done.
Man, I wonder. Now I'm really curious. Like, what did he do that? Somehow. Didn't work for people.
I don't know.
That's confusing.
I don't know. Yeah, here it is. In accordance with the book, the version of the Wendell's mother was an old woman played by Susan Willis, who is credited in the film, but her character doesn't appear.
Interesting.
So
and the fact, and when you look at it in that respect, the fact that it's a younger woman who's that spry kind of makes no sense.
Right.
The shamanistic mother would be an older woman, a hag even, like.
Crichton felt that brutally killing off an old woman did not reflect very well on the heroes.
But that's what they would have done.
I
know.
They wanted this is why I want to see.
Yeah, interesting.
And by the way, it is not based on anything. In fact, that what it was based on was revealed to be a hoax.
Really?
Yeah.
Because what's fucked up is that when I did that Viking course, they didn't connect it to this, but there were envoys from the Middle East, essentially Arab men who were sent, because what happened was the Vikings never went into Arab territory, not really, because it was too hot. They didn't like it. It was too far. They kind of got to the Byzantine Empire. Were like, this is good. We like it here. Well, this is as far as we really want to loot. And some of them stayed. But at times they got to the edge of Arab empires and would fucking destroy everything and take everything. And so some of these Arab empires would be like, okay, what the fuck is going on out there? Who the hell are these people? And they would send envoys. So some of the most interesting writing about the Vikings is actually found in Arab sources by men who were sent out.
Okay, so that character is I believe the person that the main character is based on. I believe the person existed, but was not what the movie shows.
Okay.
So it says here, the source novel has become part of one of the most notorious hoaxes in librarianship circles.
Wow.
The Ahmed Tusi manuscript, which the bibliography says is the novel's source, is completely made up. The name of the translator, Fraus Dolus, is two Latin words that mean hoax and fraud. Since the novel was published in 1976, the University of Oslo, where the manuscript is supposed to be kept, has sent out multiple letters telling inquirers that they have been victims of a hoax.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, okay, so that said, like I said,
but I believe that person is real and did that job, just not whatever this says is true.
Either way, the Arabs did have connection to the Viking world.
Yes.
And there's a lot of writing about the Vikings in the Arab world, specifically for the reason I said, where they were like, who the hell are these guys who are raising our outposts?
And that's why I'm being specific about, as far as I understand it,
I didn't know it was a hoax.
A real person.
But I also haven't really dug into this movie in a decade.
Well, so that's I started diving into this movie.
Is the director's cut out there?
Supposedly he has it, and they think several people have it, but they can't release it because
shit. So it's one of those.
Yeah. So basically, this is there are two types for people of these types of director's cuts of films. They're the ones that they only existed, let's say, in a work print or a rough cut.
The ones that were never really finished.
Yes. A good example is the Hellraiser Bloodline director's cut, which you can see. But a lot of those shots are very rough. Some of the sounds bad because they didn't complete it.
The rough cut on Alien 3 is
but that footage was finished, so they were able to very easily reincorporate it. So that's a completed one to some degree, although they stopped him from doing some scenes. But that's where there's completely different scenes, like the bull as opposed to the dog. Those were done. The effects were done. That's this type of thing, where Eaters of the Dead, by all accounts, was done, top to bottom. And then when they started test screening it, and this is another thing. The responses were terrible, but now, many years later, because a lot of the test screening stuff is horseshit. A lot of that is the studio sees that, let's say you have, I'm exaggerating, 10 people and 6 of them don't like it and 4 love it. That's a failure. Nope, that's not going to make enough money. So this is a bad test screening. It bombed. And they'll throw it out. Now people are coming forward saying, no, the version I saw in that test screening was fucking amazing. What are they talking about? So that tells me that this was a studio thing, and probably Crichton did not like it. This sounds like Crichton in the studio
and the thing is that
got together and said we don't like it.
And Michael Crichton had a lot of clout I mean, like he
yeah.
wrote Jurassic Park. I mean, the guy had the
well,
fact
he
that they
directed
gave
a couple of movies that did well too before this.
But
so
also think about it. The fact that they gave the writer the ability to reshoot and direct the reshoots, that tells you all you need to know about Michael Crichton.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't a dumb guy either. I mean, like 13th Warrior is a great movie.
But
I'm
absolutely.
way curious to know what McTiernan's cut would have been.
Yes. Yeah.
No,
because I always knew that it had been reshot. I didn't know that it was done. That's the thing, is I didn't realize it was completed. I thought that they had stepped in, let's say, I don't know, 60%.
Took it away from it before he finished it.
Yeah, that they've been looking at dailies and been like, whoa, no.
Man,
this can't
and
be
there's
like
no
this.
commentary from McTiernan on it, huh?
Well, McTiernan went to prison and is basically persona non grata, so I don't know what his stance on it is.
What are you going to prison for?
Oh, he wiretapped some. Oh, there was a big thing with him. Oh no,
Oh no, I didn't know.
You didn't hear anything? Oh yeah,
No.
This was a big thing when it. He went to prison for. He wiretapped illegally a producer or something. What did he go to here later? Let's see. Oh wait, that is not John McTiernan. That's John McTernan. That's a politician.
Criminal charges. Okay.
There it is.
Was charged in federal court with making a false statement to an FBI investigator about his hiring of the private investigator Anthony Pecciano to illegally wiretap Charles Roven, the producer of the film Rollerball, around August 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, McTiernan had. This is from the Wikipedia. McTiernan had been in a disagreement with Roven about what type of film Rollerball should be, and had hired Pelicano, whatever
his name is,
to investigate Roven's
Italian
intentions
guy.
and actions. He had asked the detective to try and find instances where Roven made negative remarks about the studio executives or said things to others that were inconsistent with what he said to the studio. Wow, did he? That I just don't understand how he thought that was going to be usable in some way.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a whole thing.
Wow. So he's been. How long did he get?
Oh, I don't think it was that long.
4 months. 4 months in prison.
It was
but
close.
nobody wanted to work with him after that. It's basically.
Well, that's the thing, is he basically got completely blackballed from it. Yeah. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And then one final thing, which I will admit, I never noticed this. I only really picked up on it. Well, okay, I shouldn't say picked up on it. As I was diving through with fervent obsession into all of this stuff, because I'm now so desperate to see this, the version we didn't get, which probably at some point, maybe when McTiernan dies or whatever, we will probably get to see it. But it's going to be a while, because even that, what do you call it? The Jerry Lewis clown movie is going to come out at some point.
And what's terrible is when you look at his filmography for McTiernan.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen Nomads. Which is Nomads?
No, I haven't seen that one. I don't know.
Interesting.
I know the name.
With Pierce Brosnan too.
Yeah.
A French. Interesting. I'll have to. But so he did Predator, which is awesome. Die Hard, which is awesome. Hunt for Red October, awesome. Medicine Man, which is a great movie. Last Action Hero. Okay, now we're starting to have a problem, but there's aspects that have a charm.
No, I disagree. I think Last Action Hero is a much better movie than it's remembered for. But go on.
Die Hard with a Vengeance, which was a lot of fun.
I love that movie. There's another movie that got shit all over. I like it.
Thomas Crown Affair. I actually really like the remake, so I'll die on that.
No. That's another movie where that movie has gotten a critical reevaluation, and now people regard it as excellent. Whereas when it came out, I think people thought it was okay. But
I thought it was good. And 13th Warrior came out, right?
Sure, yeah.
And then after 13th Warrior, he did Rollerball.
Yeah.
Which was not a good movie.
Yeah.
And then he did Basic, which is, as I remember it, a very sort of middling movie.
Yeah, it's forgettable. It's not bad, but it's not remarkable.
So like it's an interesting career, because he has this like string of just absolutely classic fucking movies.
Right.
And then it just goes right off a cliff.
Yeah, well, not accidentally.
And you know what? Actually, quite interestingly, off a cliff with 13th Warrior, because if they took that away from him,
well,
then
and it bombed. And Omar Sharif said it was the worst thing he'd ever worked on, and he retired. He pulled a Sean Connery Extraordinary Gentleman on it. Where he went, that's it, I'm done. I mean, he later kind of retired, but he thought it was so bad that he wanted out of it.
Why? What's wrong with people? I don't know what it's like to film it.
I was maybe
say, filming was a fucking nightmare.
I have read. I think that McTiernan is not the easiest person to work with a lot of times.
No, that perhaps, I understand. Yeah.
And Omar Sharif was not young, so maybe he was like, you know what?
I
think I've done enough of this.
I'm too old for this shit.
Kind of, yeah. Ironically, a Lethal Weapon move. So yeah. Now, one final thing, which I sort of think I subconsciously realized this, and then it just and then in the course of the movie I just don't pay attention to it. I'm going to send you a picture.
Okay.
Now this picture is of the 13 warriors, right? So look at that picture.
Hold on.
And you'll note that one of those characters vanishes about 20 minutes into the movie. You see which one it is?
Is it the really tall guy on the right?
Nope. It's funny, you're not even seeing him.
No, I'm trying to figure it out. Is it the little short guy between the two tall people?
The child. It's that kid. That kid is part of them, and he just disappears. And far as I can find, there's no explanation for it. I remember him being picked in the scene because I remember that kid. And then he just vanishes. It's noted, and people were like, what happened to Half-Taff the Young? His name is Half-Taff the Young. He just vanishes.
Weird.
And there's no explanation for it.
Oh, I wonder if he's in the
I wonder if he got killed.
If he gets killed early on in the director's
That's what I'm saying. So this is what I'm saying is I'm sitting here going, "Oh man, I wonder what's in this movie."
That just went right over my head. I'm annoyed now that I
never noticed it. Because, you get caught up in the movie, you don't think about it because like I said, he disappears really fast.
Yeah.
But it is, a lot of people have asked, and it is noted right on, here it is, the Half-Taff the Young is a boy of about 15 who is one of the 12 Viking warriors, but has no spoken lines in the movie. He's only seen in a couple of shots when they first arrive by boat. When the group arrives for the first time and are introduced, Beowulf kneels down, and you can see him. So he is in that scene that I just sent you. Well, it's not that. That's the.
Did you just call him Beowulf?
Well, that's what it's based on. That's what Crichton said he based it on was Beowulf. Yeah.
Okay.
So
but you're talking
Bolvi. Yeah. So whatever. Yeah, same thing. But yes, Beowulf. His name. The funny part is the name is spelled like a bad version of Beowulf, but it said Bolvi, which is really.
But this is almost like U571, where John Bon Jovi disappears about like half the movie.
Exactly.
And you're
it is like that.
What happened to Bon Jovi, man? He was on the submarine. Where'd he go?
Okay, so here is the actual image from the film, so you can see he is in. This is the last time he's seen in the movie, is what I just sent you. Which is, if you look for Half-Taff the Young, 13th Warrior, you'll see.
Oh yeah, the short over his shoulder.
Yeah, he's right there.
I bet you he was killed in the first night.
I agree, which makes me because that. Yeah. See, this is what I mean is based on the trailer, based on everything that's been said, it feels like McTiernan made a savage film. Like a Viking film.
He made a Predator movie.
Yes. And, I wonder if the scene with the woman that Antonio Banderas sleeps with is the same. Is it different? There's lots of things that this now makes me wonder about what Crichton objected to. Because if he's saying you can't kill an old woman because it doesn't look good, I'm like,
Because if you think about it right now, let's connect this with Predator, right? Because I just saw Predator recently.
Yes.
And Predator has a lot of interesting DNA like in connection to 13th Warrior, because Predator is a movie where you get a group of warriors, right, brought in for a situation, and that in Predator's case, situation they aren't necessarily prepared for, against a thing that turns out to be extraterrestrial, whereas in 13th Warrior, the reverse is they think it's supernatural and then they realize it's not, right? But what McTiernan does in Predator is he tries to give you personality for everybody as quickly as he can before he then starts killing them all off, right? And in 13th Warrior, it's kind of the same thing where he's trying to give you personality elements for all these people before he gets rid of them, because that's the kind of movie it is.
Yes.
So there's actually a lot of interesting DNA between those two,
right?
And how he handles them. Of course, Bolvi dies at the end of 13th Warrior, whereas Arnold is the only one that lives. So wait, does Bullvine not get poisoned by the?
Well, that's what I'm wondering is because who poisons him then?
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, he still dies. But I almost wonder.
Is the ending completely different?
Let me see if I did read something where McTiernan said that it wasn't that different. But what does he mean by that different? Does he mean that the scenes are laid out the same? You know what I mean?
Yeah, she still gets poisoned by. It's just a large older woman, which I mean it's believable still.
No. From what I understand, there is no duel. That is gone. So that right there that's a big difference. From what I read, that there is no final duel with a woman.
Oh wow!
So that makes me think that there's a scene where they just descend on this woman and chop her to bits, and probably Crichton went, "Oh no, you can't do that." I don't know. The fascinating part is, I'm curious.
God damn it! And it's not out there. That's the thing that's most annoying about this.
Yeah, the only thing is he had said that. Where is it? He said there was a quote from him at one point where he said, "There is a director's cut that's completed that's out there that people can see." I am fascinated. I wish I could find
Oh, okay. Here's some things for you.
Sure.
Was it the main character is a Muslim, and all the Muslim themed music was cut from the movie?
Yeah, that's because Disney owned Touchstone. I did hear about that. Yeah,
they were uncomfortable with the Muslim hero.
Yeah.
So all that. So Graham Revell and the woman from Dead Can Dance, because that's what I know. They probably did a very sort of Dead Can Dance soundtrack for this.
There is a website. It's in French though that has a reconstruction of it. Damn, I can't read this.
Oh wow! Okay, listen to this. This is interesting.
Yeah.
McTiernan and Crichton could not agree on the direction of the film and would shoot the same scenes over each other like children.
Oh my God.
The final scene with the mother has two different versions, a sexier one that you see in the movie and a more heavier, gritty one like the statues. Crichton was very uncomfortable with telling a story with imagery and wanted dialogue instead.
Oh. That figures.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
That's unbelievable.
that the fact they were directing the same scenes.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's so nuts.
I mean, yeah, that's nuts. Wow.
Yeah, well, so weird.
Like I said,
this information, by the way, comes from the 13th Warrior Extras interviews. I'm going to send this link to you because you might want to watch these. At some point, this is the whole on YouTube. This is a whole. Come on.
Ooh, this thing will translate it. Okay, this translates to English. Okay, hold on. So what is the ending? Should we burn the dog? What? Whoa. Okay, I'm just gonna give you the titles of these cut scenes. Okay.
Okay.
These are the titles. Now this is translation, but basically only the first 11 are. Oh, thank you. Only the first 11 have descriptions. So but I'm going to go from, so basically a true story ? Is the first chapter or first scene. Narrative of the poet. That sounds fine. Old Baghdad. I think we got that. The attack on the caravan by the Tartars. We got that. Arrival at the Viking camp. A lot of these sound the same. Funeral. The rivalry between Bolvi and Thorkel. The gag of the water rubbish. What? I don't know what that means. Hold on. Let me. Oh, that's where they're all using the same bowl. Okay. So I'm going along.
Oh yeah, apparently that scene went on way longer in the Tiernan cut, by the way.
Yes, that's what this is saying, is that it's much longer. So let's go to the parts that are getting interesting. So basically,
so are these the scenes from the other cut?
That's what they're saying, because this is supposed to be reconstructing the details of the cut scenes. Here's where it gets interesting. The final battle, collective suicide, but there's no description. Should we burn the dog? Departure, the Arab generals. That makes it sound like the ending is different.
Yeah.
So
that makes it sound like he gets back or something like that.
I didn't know if you knew some of this stuff already. So
no, I don't. Well, so this thing I linked you. There's and you can link that to people if you want. Okay. It's 5. So this is from the 13th Warrior extras on one of the DVDs. It's 5 parts, and it's basically interviews where they talk about the filming of the movie. And in there, they talk about how the different versions were different, essentially. So you'll have to watch that at your leisure.
I will have to watch that, yeah, because this website does have a ton of interviews with people who were part of it. So I will have to go through all this because I mean some of them I don't know how much, like Swordmaster. I don't know how much the Swordmasters can know about things that were changed, but some of these people probably.
Oh no, but yes, but you know what? What's interesting is that you say that, but then when you watch one of those,
but they might know about the battle,
and they start talking about a battle scene, and you're like, "That's not in the movie." That's how you put these things together,
right?
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested about these fucking interviews.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I especially now that I know that they were fucking with each other. I mean, because. That says to me that it's more than just a couple scenes. If they were filming the same scenes across each other, then there's got to be some other shit going on here.
Oh wow, they interviewed one of the actors. Oh, this is fascinating. Did they talk about any of this stuff? Yeah, they shot the second Wendell attack in pitch black, right? Yes, that was correct. There was no extra lighting, only from torches and fires. Oh my God, that must have been wow. Holy crap.
Yes, I mean, like when you actually do start to pull some of the details out, you're like, oh no, this is different.
Why did they change the name? The story was they agreed on a name that had more popcorn in it, a way to sell more movie tickets. Oh man, yeah, and Disney was involved, so this all makes sense. Yeah, wow.
Oh my God, some of these. Oh, okay. I just found this great article. McTiernan is talking about Michael Crichton. Yeah. Let's see. Debate of who directed which scenes and who truly deserves credit. McTiernan said, quote, "The difference between Michael and I amounts to 3 shots. Yes, it's my film. There's a tiny amount of stuff added in. Look, Michael is dead, and I don't want to say unpleasant things about him.
Okay, that explains that.
But he had a need. He was an extraordinary novelist, and he failed as a filmmaker. And he had an emotional need about that."
Wow. So that thing about the collective suicide, apparently the Wendell, I think it's after the old woman dies, the way this reads. Oh, they all just started killing themselves, which sort of makes sense. Because the woman does say the way you kill them is to kill the mother. So it does kind of make sense that they would all start killing themselves, because if she's dead, what's the point? I don't care what McTiernan can say whatever he wants. You have to remember he's got a solid reputation, and Michael Crichton's dead. So
Crichton is the reason the soundtrack was changed completely as well. He's the one who spearheaded it, apparently.
Well, not to get political about it.
Yeah.
But Michael Crichton, from my understanding, was a bit of a alt-right type. So
was he?
Yeah. Yeah, from what I understand, if I remember, he thinks that all climate change stuff was nonsense and it was a mass conspiracy. So I wouldn't exactly be shocked if he wasn't the biggest fan of.
Okay, so having read his book Travels,
yeah,
I could kind of understand that. Like,
maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. You know,
he was very smart, right? But that doesn't mean that he was smart about everything.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and that whole thing, he did. I do remember reading something about him, that line, the idea that he really wanted to get into movies. I mean, he thought of his movies cinematically.
Which is weird because I don't know. Okay, and here, this is another thing that makes me throw some doubt on McTiernan's statements. I've seen Michael Crichton films, and they're not bad. They may not be McTiernan's favorite films.
But I think that's the thing is there are Michael Crichton movies, but they're not hits. Yeah. Wait, so Runaway. So is Runaway his 1984's Runaway?
Hold on, I want to see what he directed. Here, science fiction movies.
He did Runaway and Physical Evidence.
I don't remember that one. Hold on.
Yeah, Runaway is a good movie, but it is a bit of a...
I thought that movie made money. Hold on, I could be wrong. No, this is a fascinating rabbit hole. See? We never have nothing. Director. He did 13th Warrior. Looker's a great movie. Runaway, director. Looker's. He did Westworld. He did the original Westworld film. That's not a bad movie. He did Coma. I mean, these movies all are. If you look at the ratings,
movies, so here's the thing. So here's the thing, right? When you do your own work, right?
Yeah.
you have a better sense of what you're handling because it is your work to some degree. Some people, when it's their own work, they're afraid to edit anything out. But Crichton was pretty good. Westworld is a good movie. The problem is that the show is so fucking good.
Yeah,
well, it makes
Well, but the show didn't exist when that came out, so at the time.
But the idea of Yul Brynner as the bad guy, I mean, that movie is And Coma is a good movie, but it has become kind of a forgotten movie.
Yes, well, the problem is he made a lot of movies that are very reflective of their time that they were made. He wasn't good at covering. Looker is probably the most prescient.
I haven't seen.
Oh, you should watch Looker because it basically foretold all the stuff of digitizing actors and everything so far ahead of what you. I mean, don't get me wrong. The technology it looks like of its time. It does, but it's and the light gun that they use to make people lose time is fantastic. It's a wonderful. I reviewed it.
It's got a great cast. Albert Finney, James Coburn.
Albert Finney is fantastic in that. Yeah, it's great.
So I mean. Listen, Michael Crichton was a very smart guy, but he had a vision for what he wanted his stuff to look like. And at the end of the day, McTiernan did McTiernan wanted to make an adaptation, and it sounds like Crichton wanted it to be closer to his vision of things. But that said, now that I think about that, maybe that's not right, because Crichton also signed off on changing Jurassic Park quite a bit, and then wrote the sequel to the movie, not to his own book.
Yeah.
So, I don't fucking know. I'm at a loss.
And
so maybe that's right.
You know what? Runaway did lose money.
Oh, did it?
So, but that Runaway is a good example, right? Because Runaway. No, I think Runaway is great, but it looks like a movie from 1984 or 5. It looks like of its time. He didn't. I think that might be the thing.
Well, I mean, the problem is he wanted to dream of bigger technology that did not fucking exist.
Right, but
if you did Runaway today, that movie would be frightening as fuck. But it's because we have different technology today.
Well, I don't think the robots are what give it away. I think it's more of the fact that I don't know. There are directors who are able to detimeify their movies. I don't, they can
detimeify. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, in other words, they know how to make.
You mean make them look timeless.
Yeah, because Back to the Future 2 is a good example, right? Now, that movie doesn't look like from when it is.
It helps that movie, most of it doesn't take place in the 80s.
Right, but
it takes place in another time.
But the only real giveaways to that movie, honestly, are the haircuts on certain people.
Oh yeah,
otherwise
the big hair,
you wouldn't know.
Yeah, but you know what? Stargate. There's a weird thing about Stargate where. First
French Stewart. That's the problem. French Stewart gives it away.
Oh yeah.
Because anybody who knows about French Stewart, they're like, oh yeah, this person was only popular for about 15 minutes in the 90s.
Yeah, and plus, I always see that movie and I think to myself, how is he a Marine?
It is the most ridiculous thing.
I
mean, if you don't know who French Stewart is, you could almost buy it as, oh, he must be the one they make fun of. But if you know French Stewart at all, it doesn't make any sense.
The beginning of Stargate, when they're not in the facility, right? So you're still with James Spader and he's kind of out and about. You know what? It is the 80s, but it's like it's not so bad because you don't see much of it. And then once they get in the mountain, there is a timeless aspect to that.
Yes.
Even though my wife just recently realized that Stargate and Atlantis, the Disney movie, are the same movie.
Oh well,
she was like. Because even there's a shot where Spader comes out and he's got his suitcases and it's all raining. And my wife's like, "Did they just?" And she couldn't remember which came first. And I was like, "Oh no, honey!" I was like, "They copied this movie." Yeah, Atlantis is a copy of Stargate.
I'll tell you because we had talked about Stargate. One little thing that I had forgotten to mention we were talking about. There's one thing that I always remember about that movie that I find to be. I would love to know why. This one specific thing is said the way. Do you remember when Spader you probably remember this. You remember the movie the same way I do. When he gets in the car and she's talking to him, right? Yeah. And then you remember she gives him the necklace.
Yes.
From what?
Oh no, she gives it to him when he's about to leave.
No, I'm
from
just saying.
Stargate.
But after, so when she convinces
Yeah.
him, and and he's doubtful all this stuff, and she's telling
Yeah.
him about it, and there's a point where she gives him the necklace, and she says, "I found it with Stargate." She doesn't say the Stargate. She says Stargate like it's her friend. And I really like the fact, and I don't know whether she just, because I don't know whether that actress had.
The reason I think she says it like that, this is my own theory,
Yeah.
is because at that moment, saying the Stargate implies that there is more. Calling it just Stargate is just referring to it by the name that you now understand it to have. And it is, by the way, the name that Spader's character deciphered on her behalf. So there's a lot going on there in that scene. She's putting her faith in him, and she's trusting him, and she's saying she trusts him by using his name for the device.
I always just took it as she considers it a person, like a companion of hers, because she's been with it for so long.
Yeah, as I say, she's also been with it for most of her life. Yeah.
That's what I always read to it, and I like it because it's almost like a pet name for it. Like, yes, it is its name.
And he sends the necklace back, which I always love.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
But I always think about that. I'm like, I love that line. I wonder if that was how it was written, or if she just omitted the because she doesn't necessarily speak English natively. And they were like, you know what? We'll leave it. That sounds good. I don't know. I'd be curious.
Well, either way, Stargate ends up being a rather timeless movie.
Yes.
And it's all based on this. Actually, it's not true. The most 80s it gets is when you're in Kurt Russell's house. It's pretty 80s there.
Yeah.
But it's so dour that it's very easy to miss. Because it's not like 80s pop. But the thing is, so that aspect of making a movie timeless is all about trying to remove it from its cultural pop icons.
I just found the shooting script. Hold on.
Oh, did you really?
I did.
Where was
it? There's websites for this type. It's scriptslug.com. So yeah, here's it's photo. It's somebody scanned it. So yeah, shooting draft revised 9/25/93. So I mean, whatever. But I'm trying to see. Wow, yeah, this is definitely a shooting script because holy crap, there's just lots of descriptions. The point of origin is not inside the cartouche, but below it.
You're trying to find. Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about 13th Warrior. You're talking about Stargate. Okay.
No. I wonder if that exists too. But I want to see if the.
You want to know what the line
script,
is?
I'm just really curious if it's there.
It's getting about a third of the way. It's probably about a third of the way.
Yeah, and I feel like this is where the Stargate rotates. Okay, so this is right before they step in. Oh, wow. Yeah. I love the descriptions sometimes. You don't ever see this stuff because, you see the movie. But Daniel, before our eyes, we see, all caps, Daniel broken down to the molecular level. He enters another dimension, a fourth dimension, traveling over millions of light years outside of our own time continuum. We then enter a gigantic black space floating until a sun-like light rushes, all caps, towards us, engulfing us. The screen burns, all caps, to complete and total white, all caps. Yeah, see, I like stuff like that because it's really interesting. Oh, he was supposed to be in horrifying pain when he came out. Well, that's not the same. Okay, so it would have to be right before that because she gives it to him right before he goes in, right? Oh, yeah, here it is.
Yeah,
here it is.
Right before she...
Bring it back to me. Oh, no, she doesn't say any. Oh, yeah, here it is. No, in the script, this was found with the Stargate, with a space between star and gate.
There you
it
go.
has always brought me luck. I remember that line, and he says, I couldn't, and she says, bring it back to me. Wow. This was found with the Stargate. It's always brought me luck. She does say it's always brought me luck. I remember that. That's fascinating. Huh. I love shit like that. See? I like stuff like that.
Well, what the actors bring.
Not only that,
or actually, who knows? Who knows who put that in? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it could have been the director on it that said, "I don't like that. Take the out of it." It could have been any. It could have been any number of things. It could have been that she's again. There have been times where somebody misspeaks something and they like it better. It could have. There may be alternate versions where she says it 80 times and just once she didn't say the. Who knows? Or it could be they misprinted it and obscured the word the.
An hour-long documentary about the making of 13th Warrior.
Ooh. From when?
And I'm wondering. I'm trying to figure out when it's. I mean,
Yeah,
McTiernan's in it.
Oh,
Yeah, McTiernan's in here talking.
Does he look younger or older?
I mean, yeah, it looks later on. I think a lot of the footage from the interviews is from this. It looks like.
Okay, that could be.
I will have to watch this at some point.
I'll watch that.
Yes,
Sure. Yeah.
but it's all the nuts and bolts, that
really
make the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why a movie version of a book is an adaptation. You're taking the idea and you're expanding it, because the problem is a book is written by one person. It's gone through one person's filter. When you make a movie, It is going through so many people. You're going through the director. You're going through, chance effect by, the way they light it, the way they film it, the way the actors, may change the lines slightly, or they may ad-lib something to add to it. There's a million things that can happen. So it becomes this adaptation, and it can be very, very good. But it is an adaptation of the original work. It is not supposed to be, it is not even word for word. It would be different,
Yeah, sure.
So I'm cool with that. And I do think that writers should not be directors. I know that's probably going to sound shitty, but I don't think you should direct your own work. Because I think that I wouldn't want to direct one of my own books. I don't know shit about directing, but let's say if I did know shit about directing, I'm too in love with it to be able to cut what needs to be cut, or to let it change for the medium. Do you know, like?
Well, it would be. It would. If I were, I don't disagree with you. I think if I was a producer, and the writer said I would like to be considered to direct this, what I would do if I was doing my job properly is I would read the book, and I would probably read it and have two other people read it. And we'd all pick a scene and say, okay, we're going to have him direct this one scene. We'll give him the money. We'll, give him some, temp actors, whatever. Let him block it out. We'll get him a location. Let's have him direct this one scene. See if he can, number one, handle directing, which is not easy on its own. So number one, wrangling people. Yeah. Is he going to turn into a monster? And then if he manages to, pull it together, does this look like something that makes sense from a film point of view? And I think you can base a lot of it on that. And I think if you have a couple of different people looking at it who understand film and the language of film and the way movies are supposed to work.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would just blanket say they shouldn't, but I don't know that it should just be an automatic, which I don't think it often is. I don't think that's
for me, I just think it's about loving it too much.
Well, it depends. Not everybody might love their work the same
I got
way you do.
By the way, the soundtrack for the original soundtrack by Graham Revell is
it available?
Is on YouTube.
Oh, sensational.
Yeah, it is. I'm actually
sensational.
Is
that woman prominently in it? Because I love her voice. I mean, it's very different. All right, I'll listen to
it. She hasn't popped up yet. It's just.
Well, I was going to say though, it's not like she's all over Gladiator. She's just in a lot of it, so it could be that she's deployed strategically. But that's great that it's out there.
There apparently there's tracks of it out there.
Good.
So you can find it. So it's not. If you look for the original soundtrack, Eaters of the Dead, it pops up. The music for it is there.
I will probably listen to it tomorrow.
So I like, it's funny when there's like all these traces of an altered reality kind of
ghosts
there,
of the old versions.
Yeah, they're just still
the
out
mirror
there.
Universe things popping up.
Yeah,
that's really what it is. It's the whole.
To some degree,
has a choice.
If they changed reality around you, what would be the little bits left that would denote what the previous reality looked like? You ever get that?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, of course.
For when I was younger, I watched the TV version of Dune, right? The original Dune. Which is a different cut, right? And this is when I was a kid. I didn't understand there were different cuts of movies. And then I sat down one time and watched the theatrical cut at home, and I realized that there were huge pieces of this movie missing. And as a child, I remember thinking to myself, what the hell is going on here? Because when you're that young.
This is like the inverse of the Mandela effect thing, where you're remembering things that never were, but then there's parts where if you happen to watch a TV version of something, you remember something that then you never see it. You sit there and go, oh, I must have had that wrong. Well, no, you weren't wrong.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The Dune TV version had extra scenes because they did like this elongated version of it, right? I can't remember what it was, but like they put all these extra scenes in.
Well, because that's the version I have. Is most of that's incorporated. The Spice Diver edit is 3 hours long because they incorporated most of it back in.
And they did a lot of that for the kind of extended movie TV cut they did. It's almost like a miniseries practically. And then there's the theatrical cut, which is shorter. But as a kid watching those two versions,
I remember seeing Clue, which famously has 3 endings, and I saw it, and a friend of mine saw it. and nobody really knew. I didn't know there were multiple endings, and neither did the person that I was talking to. And this person was describing the ending. I'm like, what are you talking? That's not the ending.
Did they miss the other endings?
No. The original, there weren't. No, you didn't get them all. You only got one when it came out in theaters. They played
really?
Different. Yes.
No, I didn't know
this
that.
This is famous. Oh yeah, no. Originally, you didn't get all of the endings. You got one of them. Yeah.
I did not know that.
No.
Shit.
When it was originally released, it was you didn't know which ending you were going to get. That was the beauty of it.
That's very funny.
Yes, here it is. The film was released theatrically. Each theater received one of the 3 endings, and some would actually tell you. The one I was in and the one he was in did not. They would tell you which ending you were going to see, which I think is stupid.
Funny.
I don't know why you would ever do that. Oh no, it wasn't until it released on home video that it gave you the whole, or it could have happened this way.
No, I really think that is quite funny. The fact that it had 3 different endings,
isn't it?
Like,
I think it's great.
But they separated them like. I know that it has 3 endings, but the fact that they separated them like that is hilarious.
And it's very obvious if knowing that because it's voiceover that says, or it could have done this way, and it's like a black screen where it flips around. Well, in the theater, you just got one of those endings, and that was it. Wow. Which is more in line with what the game is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're learning all kinds of filmic knowledge tonight. Isn't that nice?
That's weird little film trivia. Yeah, stuff I missed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I remember that because I wouldn't have known that from when I was younger, except for the fact that I had this discussion with somebody and he's describing the ending and I'm sitting there going, that's not what I saw.
That's not my fucking ending, man.
No.
What are you talking about?
No. Yeah. Because neither of us saw what's considered the true ending. We both saw
the true
alternates.
Ending is where Tim Curry is the bad guy.
Well, that's
right?
where everybody is involved. Yes.
Yes,
that's the one. That's the real ending. The one that I saw was the one where what's her name? I know the actress. Peacock, Mrs. Peacock.
Yes, yeah.
I saw the one where she was the one who did it.
Got it.
And he saw the one where the Scarlet was in charge or whatever. That Scarlet had other people doing it. So what's considered? Okay, so he saw what's called ending A, and I saw ending B. Neither of us saw ending C, which is what really happened, is what it's called. Yeah. So,
and it feels like they're moving the chess pieces around on the board while you're sitting there.
I'm telling you, man, we were getting heated because sitting there and when we were both right.
You're remembering it wrong, dude.
and there was no remember there wasn't really internet like there is now.
There was no internet when Clue came out.
Yeah. So that's
no way. You had to wait for it to pop up in I was gonna say Slash magazine, but that was a horror magazine.
Well, what ended up happening was this is terrible too. Number one, it wasn't that big a deal, but then we both had a third friend who saw it, and they saw my ending, so we basically agreed that that he must have seen, because we did know enough to say that sometimes they would have different versions. So we saw, you must have seen like a test. So then it was like he saw a cool thing. We were like, you must have seen a test version or something like that.
You saw the special version.
Well, because this is the other angle that sort of supported that. He saw it in the city. So he had gone to like a midnight showing where a friend of his worked at the theater.
You saw it in the city. That's where it's real.
Well, that's what I mean, is he went because he knew somebody who worked at, I don't know which theater it was in New York City, but one where they would do kinds of stuff like that. So then
isn't it amazing? The shit that adds sort of like mystique to something when you're a kid.
Oh yeah.
When you get older, you're like, oh, what the fuck, whatever. Yeah.
Well, okay, no, I'll be honest. If I got to see a test version of a movie now, I'd be excited.
That would be interesting. Yeah. But I'm saying when you were a kid, thinking that just because he went to the city, you know what I mean? Like.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. Right. But that's what I'm saying is the only reason I knew, or later figured out, oh yeah, that's what it was, is because I happen to know somebody who saw the different version.
Well, it's like catching Highlander.
Because I'm pretty sure that the ones in my area were all the same. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure the theaters in a local spot all had the same one, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they randomized everything. How the hell do I know?
When I was a kid, I didn't. The first time I saw Highlander, I caught Highlander in pieces. I never, because it was on TV at night, right? So I started by seeing one of the big sequences with Sean Connery in the past, right? Then I couldn't finish it. And then another time I saw that Highlander was coming on, and I sat down to watch it, and I caught the beginning, and then it was like I kept getting cut off, but I kept seeing all these different sections and being convinced that they were two different movies.
Sure.
That, like, was it a sequel or some shit like that? And then eventually one time I finally sat down and was able to watch the whole thing through, and I was like, oh, it's all one flick. Yeah. So yeah. I think they move the universe. I think they change things around you all the time. That's really all it is.
Sure,
somewhere out there, Nicolas Cage is Superman.
Well, I mean, he is now, technically.
Oh, he is now, yeah.
Yeah.
he's Uncanny Valley Superman.
For better or worse. Yeah.
I wonder if anyone asked him if he was happy to see that.
Oh no, they did. He wasn't.
He wasn't really.
Oh no, there's I think Vanity Fair. Somebody asked him about it.
That's so
he
sad.
was asked. Well, because I don't think they told him.
Oh, they didn't even. Oh, okay. That, I guess that would annoy me if they didn't even tell you.
Yeah, because I think here it is.
Because I mean, it would be nice if they were like, "Hey, we're just letting you know we're gonna use your version of Superman for this movie."
Yeah, I just saw something where he was talking about that, and here it is. Let's see, what does he say? I don't need to actually watch it, but I can look at the transcript of it. Let's see. I do like the fact that now there's transcripts for all this stuff that you could just say, "Show transcript." Thank you. I don't need to watch it. I was meant to do blah blah blah. Okay, or I was supposed to do pictures me fighting a giant spider that I don't want to. Shut up. Okay. Movie gave me that beautiful suit. Okay, here it is. Here it is. AI is a nightmare to me. It's inhumane. You can't go more inhumane than artificial intelligence. So, were you okay with it? Well, I don't think it's AI. I just think that they did something with it. And again, it's out of my control. I literally went to shoot a scene for maybe an hour in the suit, looking at the destruction of a universe and trying to convey the image of, so he did shoot something. And then they just did more with it. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize he did some of it. Wow. Huh. Yeah, so basically he went in and looked distressed that all the universes were melting, and that's as much as he did, and then they just extrapolated it out. So, okay. Yeah, well, interesting. Did you see the story about apostrophes being banned from street signs in England, in a small town in England?
No.
The locals are protesting they keep inserting apostrophes. So,
hold on. Is this because okay? You get some pretty funny names.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no. It's not that, because they're saying it screws up geographical databases somehow. Apostrophes apparently mess with these databases.
The fact that it's St. Mary's Walk.
Yes, it does something. But there's two parts to it. One, I think it's adorable because it's a very British thing that the locals are rebelling by inserting apostrophes. Manually.
They're putting them back.
Yes. Yeah. That's number one. But if you look at that story, scroll down till you get to the third image of a person and read the caption. It is the funniest thing.
Is this the old couple?
No, underneath that. Read what the description of that picture in the small print is.
Is this about Ruby Wang is ambivalent when it comes to apostrophes?
The way that's written, it doesn't refer to what it should have said was Ruby Wang is ambivalent when it comes to removing apostrophes from street signs. It just comes across like she doesn't give a shit.
She doesn't give a shit about apostrophes.
Yeah, because I'm not from this country, it doesn't matter because it's the same pronunciation. But it's hysterical. That caption is hysterical because the picture
ownership. It's St. Mary's. It belongs to her.
No, I know. I know. Look, I don't. Whatever. I guess there's a technical reason there is. It's fine.
It is comedic to me. It's the whole idea that they have to break the language to make it fit for the computers.
Yeah.
But you're kind of like, yeah, but this is the language.
But what I do love is that so many people have seized on it as the end of everything. Because the quote was, here's the quote. Everything. If you start losing things like that, then everything goes downhill, doesn't it? I don't know about everything goes downhill. And then to see Ruby Wang is ambivalent when it comes to apostrophes. I'm like, oh, this is hysterical. This is fucking Douglas Adams.
Especially if English is their second language. I mean,
no, I know, but it's just it's a funny caption to read as an English speaker because and plus the picture.
But you know what? We're going to lose a lot of English grammar over the next 40, 50 years because there's a lot of English is complicated and it's weird.
But I tell you something, a lot of stuff. I'm not ambivalent about apostrophes. I fucking hate them because I can never remember how to use them. So I would be fine ditching these things.
I know how to use them, so I know they're important. And I think that's what it is. But this goes back to me. This is an element of education. So earlier we were arguing, but we were talking about this idea that we cannot consider ourselves, when we think about the decision making of a mob based decision making, because we are too informed to understand how a mob would approach a situation.
Just so people know, this wasn't previous. This wasn't earlier.
No.
You forgot it. Like it's an alternate version of what we were just talking about.
We were talking about something before the show.
I don't want to invoke what we were talking about on people where they're like, "Wait, I don't remember that," and we're talking about it like it was.
And Joe specifically said to me about this one subject that I am too informed to have a clear understanding of how most people will react.
Correct.
And this is a case like that, where most people these days don't want to have to deal with the nuances of grammar. Most people want just enough English to be able to read merrily, right? And the thing is that we almost get to this point where when you're too educated and you write, you start doing things that people don't understand. You start using words. It's like when you use a word that nobody knows. It's like
muscular.
Like yeah. But you start using these big words that like only English majors know these words, or people who are have a vocabulary fetish.
Like scopic, great word.
Yeah,
never knew about
and it's like yeah. So you're using this big word, and then most people don't know it. So when you use it in a book, a lot of people will just skip it. They'll just skip it, and they'll figure out what it means loosely from the context, and then they'll just keep going, right? But it almost pays you to be able to write in a more common vernacular so that people feel that it's more accessible. I mean, this is, to some degree, this is why Harry Potter did so well, because when it came out, it was supposed to be for kids, but teens, adults, everybody grasped it because the writing was very simplistic and it got more complex as it went on, and people kind of went with it. But it's this idea that, if you're too good at something, then you almost no longer understand how most common people will approach it. So it's so like you say to me like fucking apostrophes, and I'm like, yeah, but apostrophes are so important, but they're important to me because I know how they're used. They're less important to you because you don't understand what when they're going this way or that. So it's So it
I have enough of my brain trying to get then and than straight. I barely manage. I know one is temporal and one is comparative. I know it's still annoying to have to sit there and calculate it like goddamn trigonometry.
Yeah, whereas I don't need that anymore. It's just stuck in my head. So when I'm writing, I do it correctly. But there was a time in my life where I did it wrong. Sure. And you just get better. But the problem is you get, in 40 years, if I'm still alive, the way I write may not make sense to readers in their early 20s.
Sure.
I mean, this is already like this. Go back and was it Henry James? I think it's Henry James. Go back and read Henry James. Henry James is famous for having one of the longest sentences in English history, and it's completely correct. Let me see if I could find it. Longest sentence. Yeah, here you go. He was a master of the comma, right? And he wrote irritating sentences. That's what I love.
Oh my! This is real.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Henry James was excellent.
Would you like to read this, or shall I?
Is this the trying to recover here one?
No, it starts with the house had a name and a history. Is that not it?
Hold on. Is that the...
This single sentence is the longest of Henry James's novels. Is that the wrong one?
I'm trying to find it. What link did you open?
Crap!
Yeah, it's really long. It's like a paragraph.
But they've got a graph next to it to explain how it's structured.
Yeah.
Here, look at that.
Yeah,
Is that it?
Hold on, let me see.
My good grief, this is amazing.
Now, I read Henry James when I was in school, and I was in my English masters because. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, there you go.
All right,
yeah.
all right.
Wait, hold on. What book is that from? Is that from? Does it really say what book it's from?
No, it doesn't say. Huh?
Because he has a few really good ones. But yeah, so he was a master of the comma, and understood exactly how these things went together, so that his sentence, which is the length of a paragraph, makes total sense This is like a mathematical formula. It makes total sense. It did not break any rules. But when you read it, you're just like, holy shit, it goes on. Do you actually want me to read it? It goes quite on.
I'll read it.
You want to read it? Or do you want me?
Ready? Okay. Because I might mispronounce something. It'll be funny for
go
people
for it.
because I'm not like you. Hold on, I gotta do a breath thing to be able to go through this.
Hey, do you want me to read it? Like it's like we're in the bedroom. We're like, hey, the house had a name.
You know what? We'll do
history.
2 versions. I'll do mine. No, we'll do 2 versions. This will be fun. No. This will be fun.
Go ahead.
We'll do 2 of them. This is going to be fun for people. I don't care if it isn't. It's going to be fun for me. Here we go. I'm going to read it. Right? Let me breathe in. Hold on. I got to try not to laugh now because of the thought of this. Here we go. Ready? The house had a name and a history. The old gentleman taking his tea would have been delighted to tell you these things. How it had been built under Edward VI, had offered a night's hospitality to the great Elizabeth, whose august person had extended his Oh, God, I can't read this in one breath.
Here's okay. All right.
Oh, God.
This
Can
is
you do it in one breath? Can you do it in one shot?
You're not supposed. No, you're not supposed to.
Well, then why is it one sentence?
But you pause at the commas
and then breathe at the commas.
And you take short breaths.
All right. Let me try.
Whereas a period is a stop and a long breath.
So I'm supposed to pause. All right, got it. So let me try. You
can pause and take short breaths
at the. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and especially at the what do they call the semicolons? You can breathe at the semicolons too.
Oh, semicolons too. So commas, semicolons. All right.
Yeah, but it's like short breaths, not long period breaths.
I'll try it, and then you're going to do the correct version. So, all right, here we go. The house had a name and a history. The old gentleman taking his tea would have been delighted to tell you these things. How it had been built under Edward VI, had offered a night's hospitality to the great Elizabeth, whose august person had extended itself upon a huge, magnificent, and terribly angular bed, which still formed the principal honor of the sleeping apartments. Had been a good deal bruised and defaced in Cromwell's wars, and then, under the Restoration, repaired and much enlarged. And how, finally, after having been remodeled and disfigured in the 18th century, it had passed into the careful keeping of a shrewd American banker who had bought it originally because, owing to circumstances too complicated to set forth, it was offered at a great bargain, bought it with much grumbling at its ugliness, its antiquity, its incommodity, and who now, at the end of 20 years, had become conscious of a real aesthetic passion for it, so that he knew all its points and would tell you just where to stand to see them in combination, and just the hour when the shadows of its various protuberances, which fell so softly upon the warm, weary brickwork, were of the right measure.
Perfect. He did it perfect.
Oh,
there you go. That was perfect.
Man. All right.
But the thing with Henry James is...
Well, it wasn't on top of the microphone, though.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing, right?
God,
you just gotta
do that.
Oh, I know, but it does feel disgusting, right? When you're like right on top of it, and you're like, "Hey, we're doing a show now. This will be really good." I'm gonna vibrate your inner ear now. But Henry James, he was famous for this. So when you read his book, I think one of his books is called The American. I think it is. I mean, the you would lose track of what fucking sentence you were on because they were so long and complicated, and yet 100% correct. He just knew how to do it, you know. So I guess in that respect, yeah, grammar is like math, except you just have to know the formulas, you know.
I suppose, yeah.
But but what I was trying to say is, Henry James is a great example. No one would write like this today. I mean, granted, almost nobody wrote like this at the time. Henry James is this is his style, right?
Right.
But when you go back and you read novels from the 1800s and you read them today, you know, a lot of that shit, even the stuff that's written in the English that you find familiar, that's important.
Yeah.
It reads differently. There's a different speed to it. There's a different harmony to it. It just feels different. It becomes, you know, it becomes a historical context that you don't necessarily have, rather than something, you know, like I'm trying to think of a book like this. You know, honestly, to some degree, it's like reading science fiction from the golden age, from like early Princess of Mars, Edgar Rice Burroughs, like 1917. You read that stuff and it's science fiction and it's about all the same kind of dreaming that we do today, but it feels different. The pacing is different. The level of description is different. We describe things today far more than they ever did in early fiction, where they were more interested in things situationally, and they used to give you just enough details to come along with you. Whereas today, writing has become very descriptive. They want to let you know what it is down to the fucking bricks. I mean, this this paragraph length sentence is telling you about a house, right? But I mean, it's very broad. I mean, they're giving you the sense of it, but there's no fine details. I mean, you don't even know what fucking color the house is, do you?
No. How many floors? Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Right?
It has bed.
It's a long. It's a long sentence that gives you actually very little information about what it actually looks like.
No, it's more about the person's pride in it than it is about the house.
Yeah, and the history. Yeah. So I mean, in 40 years from now, or 100 years from now, we won't be alive, but the writing of today will seem different. It almost feels mirrorversy in a weird way. We were talking about that earlier. That idea that it'll just feel different. It'll feel wrong. It's because it's from voices that are no longer in your cultural scope, and that's why for me, the novel as a thing didn't come into be until very recently, historically, because before that everything was like religious writing, or everything was like poetry, or it was like a biblical writing. The novel as a thing only really came into creation probably in the last 300 years, something like that, maybe even more, less than that. I can't remember the exact dates, but it's historically, as far as humans go, it's very recent. And when you read the first novels, you read them and you're kind of like, okay, this is technically a book, but it's nothing like how they are today, and they are technically the same thing, but you're seeing the evolution. It's like the evolution of painting. People can paint like Da Vinci, but nobody paints like Da Vinci. Right? And to some degree, it's because Da Vinci was inventing his own fucking paints while he was figuring everything else out. Nobody does that anymore. They don't have to. So it's like, it's such a different world, So yeah, anyway, yeah. Language is changing, and things will change. And we'll lose. I mean, 1984, the thing I was just listening to, in that they talk about how they're trying to take words out of the dictionary. There's a great thing in there where they talk about how there's too many descriptive words, and they're like, why do we have 6 words for this? We could just use this one. And then they use the phrase plus, like where something is great. They go, oh, that's plus fantastic. That's double plus fantastic. And what's weird is that I picked that up the other day. I said that to somebody. Where they were like, oh, this happened. And I was like, double plus. And I was like, you're not even going to realize that was from 1984. And I was like, and why is that? 1984
thing, man.
Yeah, and why is that with me? But it's that idea. I mean, language is so important, and it's in constant flux, and it expands and it contracts, and and it says a lot about about a society, the amount of words they have to describe things. What was important to them, what is not important to them, and the fact that I think a lot of our I don't think our vocabulary is going to contract. I do think our grammar is going to contract.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
So it's not the end of the world. It's just change, man. It's always changing.
Sure.
Yeah. What else you got?
Well, so
yes,
a tip that Godzilla -1 came out for digital rental in Japan.
Okay.
So, if you want to rent it legally in the United States, you will have to utilize a VPN and change your region to Japan, which is not hard. You will also have to have a Amazon account for the Japan Amazon thing, which I don't know if you still have to have separate ones, but at the time I made one to buy art books from Katsuhiro Otomo from Japan because they weren't available here. You had to have separate ones. So you have to have possibly a Japanese Amazon account, and you're going to need a cell phone that can translate Japanese. But if you do those 3 things, so that you make sure you're renting the right thing, and that you're not renting a standard deaf version of it, which you can.
Does the Japanese version have American subtitles?
It does, fortunately. Yes. Because there are Americans who live in Japan, so you still have like you could get the original. You could. It's just like anywhere else.
So you did all this.
Yeah. Yes, I did all this.
No, I do. I love your dedication. That's good.
So and I watched Japanese -1. No, I watched Godzilla -1.
Japanese +1.
God. Anyway. Yes, I watched Godzilla -1 on Amazon Prime.
I hope it was worth it after all that.
Yes. So
it would be terrible to go through all that and then have it be like a bomb. But I read it was quite good.
And the reason I did that is because for some reason I'd read that there may be a delay on it being released in America, but I can't really figure out why. They just said that there may be a potential delay. I don't know why that is.
The only cool thing about the Oscars for me was the special effects team from Godzilla +1 won the Oscar, right?
Yeah.
And did you see that they all wore matching Godzilla shoes?
I did, and that was great.
And that was the coolest thing from
which
the
is
Oscars
somewhat
for me.
funny because I don't really like the effect for Godzilla in this.
You don't like the design?
I don't like the design. I don't particularly like the animation. But
No way.
I have to caveat that by saying I didn't like Shin Godzilla at all.
Oh, that was terrible. I didn't like that.
Yeah, and this is very much following that type of... In that movie, he never made it to the form that he's in this one. They don't bother with any of that stuff in this. So there's none of the like wriggling, weird, Muppet-eyed Godzilla.
Right.
None of that crap happens.
I am so stupid. I just went to type in Godzilla
Did you
-1.
put Japanese? Did you put Jap?
No, I went to type in Godzilla -1 and I wrote Godzilla +1 because I kept thinking of 1984.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at the design. You know what?
It's not bad. It's just that when you look at it statically, it's fine.
Yeah, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
I got to tell you.
Yeah.
So a while back, I told you about my dream about my wife, where my wife turned to Godzilla and destroyed the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So after that, I was so curious to find out if anybody had like a Godzilla female fetish.
Oh,
right?
please, are you kidding?
And let me tell you, some people have found ways to make Godzilla really sexy, and ever since that, if I look at Godzilla now, I just remember all this like sexy furry Godzilla art.
This is like with the Bowser thing, the female Bowser thing.
Oh,
the same idea. I mean, come on. I mean, the fact that you even posit that question is ridiculous.
I know, but I wanted. It's not.
Godzilla's been around for so long and has thunder thighs. Are you kidding? Chun-Li is basically Godzilla without the rough skin.
It's not just the idea. It's that I want to know if somebody have actually gone through with like a full-on execution of it.
You are hysterical.
And they have.
In this way, you are the person I'm talking about with that. I guess I'm the person with the knowledge, and you are not in this scenario.
No. See, no, because it's not even. I don't want, like, sometimes you get an idea and you go and you look and you find that people have like roughly done so. Like we were talking about Dinklage's Wolverine. No, I was thinking, but we were talking about Dinklage's Wolverine, right? There are rough sketches as Dinklage's Wolverine, but there weren't any really, really good ones.
Godzilla's way too popular.
Godzilla as a fuckable female creature.
Yes,
they have created amazingly like polished versions of that.
Where do you think furries really came from? I mean, come on, this is all outgrowth from the kaiju stuff.
I'm just telling you, it's this. Every now when I see Godzilla, I always think about that. It makes me laugh.
So Godzilla's design in this is fine. I think in terms of the overall,
it's very bottom heavy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and they keep doing that because they're trying to make it like it's realistic. Because of course the ridiculous thing is a creature of this size could not support itself. So they keep trying to make it. Oh well, if his leg muscles were big enough, guys, let it go. It's fine. He can have thick thighs. I don't have a problem with that. But it's getting ridiculous. And when he walks, what they said was they were trying to imitate a person in a suit, which I applaud.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, I do like that they're actually trying to.
But it doesn't look right because it's not a person in a suit, and they're trying to mimic it, and CG can't do it. Now, does it matter? Not at all. And my problems are all nitpicks. But the interesting part about the movie is, if you're coming to see Godzilla, you're not going to see much of him. This is very similar to Godzilla 2014. He's barely in it. When he shows up, it's great. Don't get me wrong. But this is not a Godzilla-heavy film.
This is a build-up to Godzilla movie.
Yeah, which is funny because people really got all up in arms about the minimal amount of time that he was in 2014, right?
I just sent you a link, by the way, for the Godzilla that you probably wanted for this movie.
I've seen this before. You sent me this before.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. No. The Godzilla I want for this movie is essentially, I believe it's called the Millennium Godzilla. Hold on. I believe that's the one that I always thought was the best design. I think it's called the Millennium. Is that
when it was still a suit?
Oh yeah, it was still. I mean, they did some animation with it, but Godzilla. I think it's called Godzilla 2000. Is that the design I really like? Basically, when he got really pissed off looking, is the one I like. Here he is. Let's see, Godzilla 2000. Yes. Okay. So here, I'll send you this, or you can search for it, but this is easier. So Godzilla 2000 is the one. Jesus, that's a hell of a link. That is
a hell of a link.
Yeah. So if you click that, you'll notice his legs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
That, I think, is probably among the most perfect Godzilla designs. He looks mean, and he's
very,
lean.
very
he's
jagged, big mouth. Yeah.
So that's what I mean is they keep inflating his thighs, which at a certain point it does start to look silly. But anyway, that doesn't matter. This is not me starting to set up a negative review of this film. It's not that at all. But again, for people who are like, oh, you didn't see enough of him in 2014. Well, I guess it's not just Americans, or I don't know if the director of that was an American, but I guess it's not just the non-Japanese versions where you barely see him. So maybe shut up, because I always thought that was a good use, and I think it's a good use in here too.
Well, I mean, they do it as kind of a he is the big show, but once he shows up, I think a lot of directors or writers worry that there's only so far you can go. I mean, he is giant and he is powerful.
Well, I should say the one thing I will caveat to my caveat of earlier was the one place I think the design is superior to all the others is specifically his head. If you look at Godzilla -1, just look at his face. That is the best version of Godzilla's face they've ever done, especially because they gave him yellow eyes. And
what's funny is that you've got this version, and then they're still doing the Godzilla King Kong movies.
Well, that's what I like version. That. No, I like that. I think that's great that they've separated that Japan is doing the serious version, the horror version, and America's doing goofy cartoon version. I think that's fantastic. I think it's great.
Yeah, because the new one even has like a GoBot arm for King Kong.
It does. It's ridiculous, and I love it. So that's fine. That one you can't rent it yet, so I haven't seen that one. So I saw this one first.
No, I'm going to watch that one with my kids because they're fucking kids movies now.
I'm going to watch that one with my kid, which is me. So, so Godzilla -1, I think you in particular would like this movie because it's very, very specific to the war.
It's right after World War II, isn't it?
It is the end of World War II. It is literally starts as World War II is ending, and the Japanese emperor has told all the kamikaze pilots, hey, die honorably, just go out bombing them. And
so this is before they've given up.
Yes, it's before they've given up. So the main character starts off, he lands on an island that is specifically made to repair kamikaze planes, and says, oh, something went wrong with it. And they look at it and they're like, there's nothing wrong with it.
He doesn't want to be a kamikaze, does he?
And so he goes off, and the lead mechanic, whose name is Tachibana, it's important because this guy's a main character throughout the movie. The main character's name is, I'm going to mispronounce it, Shikishima. I think that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, I'm sure I'm screwing it up, but whatever. So kamikaze pilot, screwing it up. Yeah. Shikishima's sitting there, and he's looking off into the ocean, and Tachibana comes over and says, hey, just so you know, I don't blame you. What is the point of dying honorably when the outcome is already decided? So initially, Tachibana is sympathetic towards him and realizes, no, this guy was faking it, that the plane's fine. And so that evening, Godzilla shows up at this island they're on, which is a very small island. There's maybe 10 of them on the island.
And there's no like explanation, like their version of for why he's there type of thing.
No, I mean, they show nuclear testing, and then he shows up, but you kind of know that. I mean, everybody really knows him at this point, so it's almost like, why show Uncle Ben getting shot? Okay. You know, we know what Spider-Man's background is. We know what Batman's background is. Like, you know what Godzilla is. He's the result of atomic testing. Like, what they refer to him as they have many times in the Japanese versions is, he's a dinosaur-like creature that has been mutated. That's all they say. Which is fine. But you see bombs going off, and then you see like his eye opening up. So you know what it is. They just don't give you a whole thing. Which is fine. We know what Godzilla is at this point. He's established. So he shows up, and he's more dinosaur-y than he is. He's not really standing upright yet, so he's younger. And so he starts bashing everything, and they all run to this bunker. And Tachibana says to Shikishima, get into your plane. You have a 20-millimeter cannon. You can kill him with that. Nothing could withstand that, because they don't know what it is yet. This is like his first real appearance. There have been rumors of him, because they know the name that the locals have given it. But they don't really know what it is. And so Shikishima says, well, what if it just pisses him off? And Tachibana's like, you've got to do something. We're going to die here. Go get in the plane. So he gets in the plane, and he lines up the sights on Godzilla, and then his hand starts shaking, and he can't do it. Like, he panics. And so Godzilla then destroys almost everybody else. The only people left alive are, he grabs Shikishima's plane right after God, I can't do that the whole show. Kamikaze pilot jumps out, runs. Godzilla throws the plane. It blows up, which knocks him out. And he thinks everybody else has been dead. And most of the people you do see get killed. Although, interestingly, I didn't know this bit of trivia, Godzilla can never be shown to eat people. He can only be shown to kill them. So you see him bite people and throw them.
Interesting.
That's a Japanese thing. They will not have him eat people because he's not supposed to be that evil. So he can kill people like a wild animal, but if he's eating them, it shows some kind of, I guess, cannibalistic intent or something. I don't know. But yeah, you'll never see him eating people. And in the Japanese ones, he will not eat people. He will only kill them. So he steps on a bunch and he chomps a bunch, but chomps and throws. Like bites, throws. Every one. Doesn't eat them.
It's amazing that he would even bother biting people because they're so tiny.
Well, because they're shooting at him. So they're pissing him off.
Okay.
So it's more like, hey, stop it. And the other ones he just steps on. So Kamikaze pilot wakes up the next day, sees bodies all lined up and can't figure out why. And then he sees Tachibana's alive. The mechanic is alive. And has been wounded in his leg, so he's limping, and he sees him, and he's like, you're alive? And he like grabs him and drags him over. He says, they're all dead because of you. If you had just shot that thing, we would be alive, right? And so Kamikaze pilot is obviously completely just shell-shocked and wrecked and everything else. Like, he's clearly been grievously mentally scarred by the war. So then we cut to them on a boat being brought back to, I guess, the mainland because the war is now over. So there's a bunch of soldiers on the boat. They're being brought back. Tachibana finds the Kamikaze pilot on the boat and goes over to him and shoves this packet into his pocket and says, that's for you. And then walks off and won't look at him again. And we don't really see what's in it for a while. We just see that there's a packet with something in it, like a small envelope with something in it. So he comes back and he goes back to his hometown, which has been destroyed from air raids. It's just been wiped out. It's just wreckage for the most part. And he runs into a woman who was, I guess, his neighbor. And she's like, what are you doing here? You were a kamikaze pilot. Why are you not dead? And he won't answer her. And she says, oh, so you're a coward. You know, my sons are dead because you didn't do your job. Basically blaming him. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's bad news. It's bad news. And he says, are my parents alive? And she's like, no, everyone here is dead because of you. Well, not just him, but like people like you. And then she just wanders off to like she has like her house is basically barely together and she just goes into it. And you see him just sitting there in the middle of wreckage with nothing. And he says out loud, come back alive. That's what you told me. And that's what I did. And you're not here. Meaning his parents. So you understand, like, this is a heavy flick. Like, this movie is not fucking around.
This is not the Matthew Broderick version.
No, that's what I'm saying about this. It's not the Americanized version where they're tag teaming into a fucking cage match with other monkeys. No. This is the old style Godzilla where this is a source of horror all around. So he's going into town to get, the government's basically giving out food to the survivors and all this stuff. And he's getting some of his food, and he's walking through, and a woman is running, and people are chasing her and saying, stop the thief, stop the thief. And he tries to jump in front of her, kind of on instinct, and she shoves this bundle into his arms and then runs off, and he looks down, and it's a baby. And he's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with a baby? And he just sits there, and he's waiting for her to come back, and waiting, and she never comes back. So he starts to wander back to home. And once he gets out of the main area, the woman's like, oh, finally, I was waiting for you to leave. And she's like, what do you mean? She says, well, I can't have them see me. They think I'm a thief. And he's like, well, you were just going to leave the baby? And she's like, no, I was waiting for you to move. Why'd you take so long for? Like, very funny. The gallows humor stuff is good in this because it is that kind of offsetting of things. And so she takes the baby, and he says, well, why didn't you send your husband? She's like, I don't have a husband. He's like, what do you mean? And she says, well,
what do you mean?
What do you mean? And he says, well, where did the baby come from then? Like, clearly a product of its time type of questioning. And she says, oh, it's not my baby. He says, what do you mean it's not your baby? And she says, a woman was dying and said, please take care of my baby. And so I took care of my baby. And he's like, what? You're a single woman and you can't possibly take care of a baby on your own. And she's like, well, what am I supposed to do? I can't just leave it. And he's like, you know what? Come back with me and I'll give you food for the night. And then you got to get going. But Jesus. So she comes by and she stays there and he just wants to feed her. And then she says, oh, this is a nice place to stay. He's like, no, you're not staying here. He's like, I just can't let this baby starve. So I'm going to give you food and then, go figure something out. And then she falls asleep and he's like, oh, Jesus. And so it's one of these things where time goes by and she won't leave. And of course now they're getting friendly and everything else. But it's always this strange relationship where, because then the woman who was blaming him comes by and says, who are they? And he's like, hey, they just stayed here. I didn't want them to stay here. They just did. And she's like, she says to the young woman, she says, do you know anything about raising a baby? And the young woman's like, no. And she's just feeding her like the baby rice. And the woman's like, you can't just feed her rice. She'll die of malnutrition in like a week. She's like, you people know fucking nothing. She's like, but I'm not going to let this baby die, so I'll help you. So it's now this small communal thing happening. Right? Okay. So time goes on, and
with the implied threat that Godzilla is out there somewhere.
Well, that's the thing is, for a long time, he's really very background. The whole middle, and actually there was a point where the movie started to lose me, because I was thinking, okay, because I knew that it was very character heavy.
Is Godzilla coming back at all?
Well, I really was wondering. I thought, is he just not going to show up to the last 5 minutes and they're going to kill him? Is that what this is? Because I'm sorry, but that's not a movie I want to watch. Like if I want to watch there were parts where I started thinking of Grave of the Fireflies and I went, I don't want to watch this. Oh, okay. Yeah, it started, I mean, it gets close at times where I started to go, this is not fun. And I know it doesn't have to be fun all the time, but I don't know that I really want to watch this. But in the meantime, they're getting together and, things are going along. And there's a point where, so he's concerned, Kamikaze Pilot is concerned that they don't have enough money and they're all going to die. So then one day he comes home and he says, hey, I got a government job. And she's like, really? And he says, yeah, I got a government job and it pays really well. And she looks at the form that he's got and she says, what is this? How can you be paid this much? He says, well, it's kind of a dangerous job. Basically, during the war, there were a lot of sea mines that were laid out in the ocean, and somebody's got to go get them.
I know this is going, yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, it's hazardous. So they pay you really well. So we'll be able to actually get an actual real house because they're living in basically like a shack. He's like, I can afford to, move us into a bed. And he's saying this, but they're not together. It's the interesting thing.
No, they're just unified around this child.
Around misery and the child. Yeah. About having
hold on. Is this the old lady as well?
No, the old lady's still living in her little hovel. And the two of them are living in this place, and then they get a slightly nicer place.
So are they all getting a place together, the three of them?
No. The old woman's still on her own.
Got it.
Her house it's not as much of a shack as theirs is. It's just, it's sustained a little bit of damage, but it's basically fine. Like she got lucky. It's just that everybody that she, all the men in her life went off to war and all died because, this guy. Not really, but that's implied. So then we get a long set of sequences where he's on the boat with 3 other guys. A professor type, a young kid, and the old Quint of the sea. Basically, that's the archetypes. And they're delightful. Like, they started to get me back into it immediately because I just like the whole setup with them. Because it's just really good character work. They're really good actors. And while they're on the ship, it's really funny because there's like humor and they're playing around and they realize that he's a really good he's a very good sharpshooter, but he's still having the problem where his hand's shaking when he goes to use a gun, but he kind of is working through it because, he has to do this to get the money and he needs the job and, that's what he's doing. So they basically go around and they cut the lines on the mines. They come up and they blow them up. And so they're going around. They're doing this for a while.
And they're creating a lot of vibration in the ocean there. Got it.
Yes. They don't necessarily link those things together, but then one day they're sent out to a huge American warship that has been destroyed. And the professor says, because at first the younger guy's like, wow, they must have really gotten hit by some heavy artillery to do that. And he's like, no, that's not bombs. He's like, something ripped that thing up. And of course, Kamikaze guy goes, well, then it's Godzilla, because I've seen what Godzilla does, and he does stuff like that. And they're like, oh, that's just a myth. And then the professor says, well, no, it's not really a myth, because we're not out here randomly. They want us out here to stall Godzilla while a heavy destroyer comes in from wherever, a Japanese destroyer. And the old guy's like, and this is hysterical. He's like, fucking Japanese government, misinformation. Like, he goes off on this rant about how they're always lying to us, and God damn it. And like, it shouldn't be as endearing in the modern age as it is, but it's just something about the way he does it. And the fact that, it's like, the old days when this type of thing was more innocent, that conspiracy theories weren't, getting lots of people killed, except they were in this case. But he's like, oh, information control, that's the thing Japan does best. Like, all this like ranting and raving. It's great. And so sure enough, Godzilla shows up because he is hearing the mines, and there's the two boats. There's their boat and another one. And he just eats the other boat. And then he starts chasing them, which is a great sequence where he's just swimming at them and he's just staring at them. And it's like, he's completely unconcerned. And so Kamikaze guy's like, well, let's put a mine into his mouth and I can shoot it because I can hit it. So they put a mine in his mouth and they blow it up, and half his face blows off and then immediately heals itself. And they're like,
wow.
oh, fuck. Yeah. He can regenerate really quickly from normal stuff. And like, he's scarred, like the skin is lighter, but it comes back almost instantly. And so now they're really screwed because now he's catching up to them. So he's about to kill them when suddenly he starts getting hit with heavy fire. That warship happens to show up. Like, it just showed up, and it distracts him, and he goes off and he starts to roll it over. And at that point, they take all the heavy guns and aim them at his chest, and they fire them all at once, and they kind of knock him out. So he kind of falls backwards and falls into the ocean. And so now, at this point, his presence is basically undeniable. Like, okay, now we have a major problem because you can't hide this anymore, because he just like almost fucked up one of their heavy destroyers. So they, So when he goes down in the water, right? Like I said, now all the guys in the boat have seen him. Now everybody's seen him now. But then a couple of seconds later, because they're like, okay, well, they knocked him out, because it looked like they did. And then you just see this glow coming from under the water. And he shoots his heat ray from underneath the water. But now they've gone back to, and they've done this before, where when he shoots his atomic breath, it causes a nuclear detonation. So it's not just that he has atomic breath. They've done that before. Well. That's not new. He actually, at the impact point of the beam, it's a nuclear bomb going off. So he basically blows up the destroyer. There's a mini nuclear explosion, right? And then he's basically like, okay, well, now I'm tired, because they do show that the atomic breath takes something out of him. He can't just keep
whereas
doing it.
in the new version, it's more like
the new one, it's like he's just like flipping quarters at people, like, fuck it, whatever, who cares? Yeah, that's what I mean. The new ones, the American one's a cartoon, and the Japanese one is serious. So, and that will be important. The whole delay of atomic breath becomes significant later. So he basically is tired, and he's been beat up a little bit, and so he just wanders off and leaves the little boat, right? So they, at this point, they go back home, and he comes home one day, and so Godzilla kind of goes away for a minute, and he comes home, and the woman is now dressed in a really nice outfit, like a nice, I guess, pants, dress, whatever, of the time. And he says, what's going on? She's like, oh, I got a job. He's like, what do you mean you got a job? And she said, well, you've carried me long enough. I should be contributing here. So I got a job in Ginza, which is like 2 towns over or whatever. And he says, and you see him kind of reacting like, well, so are you leaving? She's like, no, I'm not leaving. I can't afford to leave yet, but at some point I have to be able to. You can't just carry me forever. And he says, well, what about the little girl? Who's, I don't know, like 2 or 3 at this point, whatever. Because I think it's 3 years later. Because the years are passing by. You get these regular progression of years. Not a ton, but it's moving. And he says, well, what about her? And she's like, oh, the old woman, she'd be happy. She said she'd already raised 3 kids anyway, and they're not around now, so she'd be happy to have a child to look after. She wants to do it. And he's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess that's okay. But you can see he's kind of, it's upsetting
he was getting used to this.
Well, he's PTSD'd, right? And this is his stability is being altered. So you can tell that he's right on the edge of like panicking about it or, not being able to handle it. But it's enough of the structure is being preserved that he's okay with it. I guess that's the way to put it. So this goes on for a little bit. And then at one point you start to hear air raid sirens and he's got the radio on. The radio says Godzilla is making landfall at Ginza. And he goes, oh, fuck. That's where she works. So then we cut to Ginza, and this is where Godzilla really shows up. He comes in, and he's walking around, and he's just annihilating everything, and he fires the atomic ray and detonates another nuclear explosion as everybody's running, and you see the woman is running. And but right before he shoots the beam, he's walking around. Now at this point, he's just smashing things. Like he's just picking up trains and throwing them. He's swiping his tail around, and he's just wiping shit out.
What's the scale of him in this one?
There's a picture. No, he's pretty big. I mean, he's like twice the size of the building. I want to say.
Is he big like the cartoon, or like the Godzilla King Kong version, or is he smaller?
I think he's slightly smaller than that. There was a picture where I can send you that shows you his scale. Here it is. Okay, here we go. No, that's not comparing it to the American one. Yes, here we go. He would be, which one is he? Good grief. What? Hold on.
Come on, Charlie Brown. Which one is it?
All right. I believe. Okay, here it is. This image. So he is definitely bigger. He is the one.
So he's bigger.
Well, no. He's not bigger than the American one. The American one, I believe, is the one on the right. And I believe he's the one on the left. And then...
Okay, so he's slightly smaller.
Yeah, I mean, he's still big.
Who's the one in the middle? Who's the wee one in the middle there?
I think that's the original Japanese Godzilla, like the older style, the suit.
Okay.
Because that looks like the later suit version's head.
Yeah.
So he is not as immense, but he is bigger than he's... I guess he'd be about the Shin Godzilla size. So I think he's consistent with Shin Godzilla.
Big.
Yeah, pretty fucking big. So definitely towering over skyscrapers, but not filling the sky type of big. So yeah, he's trashing everything. And Noriko is running, and you see her, and she falls down, and she's about to be trampled when, of course, Kamikaze guy shows up and says, I have to get you out of here. And so they start running, and they're making their way, at which point Godzilla shoots his heat breath and sets off a nuclear bomb. Now, this is about the midpoint of the film. And I was still kind of, like, I was liking it, but I wasn't really, really liking it yet. And then the shockwave starts coming through. And she pushes Kamikaze guy into an alley and then gets blown away by the fucking shockwave. And I mean, I was like, oh, fuck, they killed her. Because you see her, not only does she get blown away, but then it does the thing where all the air gets sucked back in. So everything that got blown out, as if that wouldn't kill you, then all the shit comes back in. Oh, and I mean, they're wiping out lots. And you see men, women, they're all getting wiped out. Like, this is not playing lightly with what he's doing. He's wiping people out. So at that point, I was actually shocked. Because I saw the alley. I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to pull her into the alley. And they're going to narrowly... No, she shoves him into it. So now, not only did he already have survivor's guilt, on top of the fact that people are blaming him for being a coward, but now she's dead because of him. Not really, but he couldn't save her. I guess that's the way to say it. He couldn't save her either. So he is at this point mentally annihilated. So they have a funeral and he's there and he's just like, he's completely spaced out. Won't say anything. He's just staring off into space. And he starts having hallucinations where he says, I'm not alive. I'm dead. This is hell. I'm in hell because I was a coward. Like, this can't be, like, he's losing his mind. But then he's told, the professor comes by and says, look, I know this is that this is, that this is wrecking everything. He's like, but I believe that there's a group that thinks there's a way to kill Godzilla. Do you want to be part of that? And he's like, yes. If I can kill Godzilla, Godzilla's been there, a lot of this terrible stuff in my life. Yes, let me help you kill it. So he's like, fine, here's the meeting. Come to the meeting. Goes to the meeting, and there's a bunch of people, a lot of ex-military, and almost everybody there has been in the war. This is a big thing in this movie. We're talking about how terrible war is, that, that people shouldn't have to go to war, but somebody has to defend people. There's a lot of war stuff in this. I'm skipping over a lot of it, but there's a lot of it in there. So goes to this meeting, which is headed by some high-level top Navy people. And they say, look, the Americans can't help us because it is believed that if they send in military here, the Soviets will go after them. So we can't count on the Americans. We're on our own.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. And they're like, they wish us well, but and plus we've been, demilitarized from the war. Like we were told, you can't have weapons.
Yeah.
Remember?
So they have very little to work with.
Yeah. So they're like, we can't really do much. However, the Japanese government has allowed us to take over some decommissioned Imperial Navy destroyers. And the Americans have allowed this to happen, meaning that they're not going to hold this as like a
military action. Yeah.
Right. But they can't tell the public about it because they're afraid there'll be panic. So, of course, the old guy starts, fucking government, the whole thing. But then the professor comes out, and then you find out that he's actually the architect of this plan, that he's thought about the fact that conventional arms cannot hurt Godzilla. They figured that out. But he has a plan where he says, we can sink Godzilla to the bottom of this trench somewhere in the, I don't know, whatever sea that it is, or bay or whatever it is. He's like, if we surround him with these tanks and we rapidly release Freon, it will make him sink. And somebody's like, well, what's that going to do? He's like, well, even the most hardened deep sea creature can't take being exposed to that depth that quickly. And even if somehow he lives, our plan B is to then inflate these buoyancy balloons that we'll also have on him and shoot him back up, and then he'll be decompressed.
The decompression will kill him.
So we're like, so he says, if we don't kill him by putting him too far down, then we'll get him on the way back up. And basically at that point, he'll either be dead or so injured that we can finish him off by bombing him. And everybody's like, okay. And some, and some of them leave.
It's a very scientific attack.
Yes. So he's like, I can't guarantee it's going to work, but it's a good plan. And so at that point, the kamikaze pilot, because he says, can you guarantee this will work? And he says, no, I can't. And he says, okay. He's like, I'm in, but how are you going to lure Godzilla to where you want to go? And they say, well, that's actually where you come in. We have a plane that you can fly, and if you just shoot at him, it will keep him, because he'll respond like an animal. So the two ways that they can do it is, one is he can chase you, but also we're going to play a recording of his own roar back at him, because he will see it as a predator and go after it. So we're confident we can bring him out to this trench, and that'll do it. But on the off chance it doesn't work, we'll have you in the plane. And he says, okay, I'll do it. And they show him what apparently is a real plane, this rear propeller type of plane called a local Shinden fighter or something like that. I believe it is based on a real plane that had a rear propeller. Yeah, it's called the Shinden, the Kyushu J7W Shinden. Yeah, there's a picture of it from 1945, a prototype. Yeah, it's a weird looking little plane, but it was supposed to be highly maneuverable, or at least that's what they say. Whether that's real or not, I don't know.
Yeah, look at that. That's pretty neat.
It's neat. So they bring him to that, and they say the only problem is this is a prototype. It was supposed to be in practice if the war ever came to our country. But of course, they nuked us. So, no war. So he's like, but we don't have anybody who knows how to fix it. And Kamikaze Pilot says, well, I know a guy, but he ain't going to want to help me. He's like, but I think I know how to get him here. And so he starts looking around for Tachibana, the guy, for the mechanic from the beginning. And nobody knows where he is. But he's like, all right, well, give me any places that you know that he's lived. And he starts writing all these letters and mailing them out. And you don't know what's in them, but he keeps mailing them all over the place. And so then one night he's walking along and somebody hits him in the head with a pipe and knocks him out. And he wakes up and he's all tied up, and it's the mechanic. And the mechanic takes one of the letters and waves at him and says, "What do you mean I killed everybody on the island?" And he's like, no. I know you didn't, but I knew that would get you so angry you would come after me. It was the only way I could figure out to get you here. And he's like, "Well, fuck you. I'm not helping you. And now I'm going to kill you." He's like, "No, listen to me." He's like, "There's a plane that you're the only person I know who could probably fix this thing." And he's like, "But you have to do something for me." He's like, "What?" He's like, "You have to fit it so that I can fly it into Godzilla's mouth and blow up and be a kamikaze for this." He's like, "I can do it for this because he killed all of the people there. He's wrecked everything in my life. I am finally ready to do what I couldn't do before." And the mechanic's like, "Okay, for that, I'll fix it for you." So they fix it up, and they've got Godzilla coming in, and they get it all fixed, and they attach a bomb to the bottom. Or no, he says, "Okay, I secretly removed one of the fuel tanks and put a bomb inside it." He's like, "So when you're ready to go into it," he says, "there's a handle here. You have to pull this handle to arm the bomb. Make sure you do that before you fly into Godzilla's mouth." He's like, and this is an experimental plane, so let me show you some things about it, right? But the important part is you got to pull this handle. And then he's showing him other things. So then we cut to the outside. They got the 4 destroyers. Godzilla's on his way in, right? He comes in, but he shows up and starts getting onto the surface before they planned. And so they radio the kamikaze guy, and they're like, "Hey, we got to get him back out into the ocean. He's on land. You have to do something." He's like, "Don't worry about it. I got it." So he takes the plane, and the plane is highly immovable. So he's strafing Godzilla, which are really cool scenes where Godzilla is basically trying to snap at him and can't reach him because, of course, Godzilla can't fly and doesn't jump or anything. He's just kind of swatting at him. He's trying to hit him with his tail. And because the plane is so maneuverable and because the kamikaze guy is actually a very good pilot, he's dodging him. And he shoots him enough to piss him off, and he starts following the plane. He's just kind of like circling him but leading him out to the ocean. In the meantime, they've positioned all the destroyers, right? So as this is going on, we see a letter from the kamikaze pilot shows up for the woman who's taking care of the baby, basically explaining, I've gone off to do this thing. If I don't live, you have to take care of the daughter, the young girl. And then right after that, she gets a telegram, and she panics, and she grabs the little girl, and she takes off. And you don't know where she's going.
Is it that they found the woman alive?
Yes, but there's a thing to it. Right. Yeah. Which, of course, kamikaze pilot doesn't know.
Yeah.
So we see them, and they get him out into the ocean, and they wrap him up in the Freon things, and he's getting ready to fire his breath, and they want him to charge it up before they do this because the professor thinks that if he is pressurized when he's charged up, his body will kind of fracture itself. Like if it can't release it properly. So they wait till he's just about to fire, and they're like, "Now, punch it." And they do it, and it works. It sinks him. He goes down, but you see, and it's really cool. It's hard to explain it right. You have to see it. But when he goes down, suddenly all the sound cuts out, and the light shuts off, and he just is hanging there. And they're like, "We got him. That's it." He's the depth meter's not changing. He's down there. Ha-ha, success. At which point, of course, the depth meter starts charging, and he's moving around. They're like, "Fuck it, hit the thing, hit the buoyancy bombs." So they deploy those, and they're waiting, and he's coming up, and he's coming up, and he's coming up, and then he stops. And then and they're like, "Why did he stop?" And they're like, "I don't know." And then they see all the balloons come up, and they've all been bitten. And they're like, "Shit, he bit through them on the way up. Let's pull him up using the boats." And they had told the young kid from the boat, they were like, "You can't go. We've all been in war. You haven't. There's no point in you dying for this. We know what we're going into. You're young. You have your whole life. Don't die for this. Go live." And he's very upset about it. He's pissed off. And of course, what he does is he goes and rounds up. I don't know how he knew they would need this, but whatever. This is one of those things you let go at this point in the movie, whatever. So they're trying to pull Godzilla up with the destroyers, but he's too heavy. They can't do it. So at that point, the kid shows up, and he's got all these tugboats, and they link up with the big boats, and they're pulling Godzilla up. And they pull him up, and he comes out of the ocean, and he's fucked up. Because the decompression has burst all these things in his body. So he's got all these big burst parts of his body are all white. His eyes are white. Like his eyes have been blown out. Like he's all fucked. I mean, he's monstrous looking. But he comes up, and he's pissed, obviously. I mean, he's pissed.
I'm sure he is.
He is. So he starts to light up to shoot his beam at them, where all the people we followed through the whole movie are. At which point, of course, the plane comes in, like Han Solo at the end of Star Wars. You see the plane flying in, and you see it going right for him, and he's waiting, and when Godzilla opens his mouth, and you see the breath starting, he flies the plane into his mouth and blows his fucking head off. It explodes and takes all of Godzilla's head with it. So there's basically a headless Godzilla's there, and he's kind of like, and then the beams start shooting out of his body, and his body basically melts from all the escaping atomic energy, like slices his body into pieces, and it just sinks into the ocean. And so they realized that the guy, basically what had happened was that he had rigged this thing to be a kamikaze plane. So all the other people realize he's blown himself up to kill Godzilla. At which point the professor says, wait a minute, what is that? And he points. And what you then get a flashback to is the mechanic says, oh, there's one thing about this plane that's different. Because he had made this comment about they make us fly. He says they make us fly in planes that don't have ejection seats. That's how little they care about us. And I thought that was an interesting thing for him to say. I thought it was just in his ranting of, anti-government stuff.
Yeah.
But no, he says, this plane has an ejection seat. And he looks at me, he says, don't kill yourself for this. Live. You're willing to do this. You've proven that you're not a coward. Don't kill yourself. If you can pull this thing and still kill it, do it. It's a beautiful moment. It's great. So yeah, he pulled the ejection seat. He gets out, and they rescue him, and they bring him back. At which point the woman shows up and says, "You have to come with me." And Godzilla he's not really dead, but they come with him, and he comes into the room with the daughter, and sure enough, the woman is alive. She's all fucked up. I mean, like her arm's all bandaged, her face, she's like missing an eye. But she had survived. And so he reunites with her, and as he's hugging her, we cut back to Godzilla's body, at which point we see his heart regenerate itself and start to beat. And then when she's hugging him, you see something on her neck. You see these marks on her neck that look like what people thought were radiation burns, but what have been confirmed to actually be Godzilla cells, which is part of what the Shin Godzilla thing was, where his cells, and actually in the movies, Godzilla cells led to two of the monsters that he fights. One is Biollante, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it. And one of my favorites, which is Space Godzilla, is that Godzilla's cells became these two creatures. That's where they came from. So there's a lot of people who are upset about the fact that she's got the G cells in her neck. But if it means Space Godzilla, I'm fine with it, whatever. But, it's this idea.
It means she'll regenerate, possibly, right?
Something, basically what the director has said is, hey, you don't come up against a nuclear weapon and not have a scar from it. So that's now whether that's going to be a metaphorical thing or whether it's actually going to lead to one of those creatures, it's hard to say. So it may be people reading more of the traditional stuff into it, and the director is more saying, no, it's just that, the atomic horror will brand anyone, even people who think they got out. You don't actually get out, whether you have a child with cancer or you yourself are radiated or scarred or whatever. So it's hard to say what he means by that, but he did confirm that those aren't radiation burns, that those are in fact Godzilla or G cells is what they call them. So, I mean, there's going to be another one of this. This thing has won so many awards, made so much money. I mean, it made 10 times what it cost. It cost like 10 million. It made over 100 million. So
wow.
It got
was that international or was that in Japan?
No, that's everywhere, I think.
Okay.
So, but this is, it has more than made back its money. So there will be another one. What it will be, I don't know. But again, don't come into this thinking you're going to see a lot of Godzilla. Now, when he shows up, he's great. I mean, he does.
But it's almost like they took a World War II movie and then conjoined it with a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, I mean that is really what it is. This is a war film. This is a World War II survivor film, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. It's just that instead of, I don't know, that the enemy being an army, it's Godzilla. They've taken, because they never show or really talk about the bombs that are dropped. You know what happened, but they don't fixate on it. I don't think the words Hiroshima or Nagasaki are ever said in the movie. They never show it. They show some of the testing, and that I think is where you're supposed to, of course, go, oh, okay, well, that's Godzilla is being pissed off from that or being mutated by it. because they do say it's like he's a dinosaur that's been mutated, that survived, which is one of the backstories of Godzilla, that he was a dinosaur that got mutated. That's not a new origin for him. But I think they said he's in 11 minutes of a 2 hour and 5 minute film. That sounds right. I think they said he's in slightly more than the 2014 one as far as what you're actually going to see of him. But when he shows up, he's great. I mean...
But that's not what... in a weird way, that's not what the movie's about.
Well, they used him as an atomic bomb. He is used as a mass destruction event. So he wouldn't just be dancing around for you and doing drop kicks, which he does do in the movie. He actually does drop kick, I think, King Kong at one point. Somebody. He does drop kick somebody. So yeah, it's not the dancing version. Like I said, I think that's probably actually for the best for unintentional reasons, because I don't think his animation is that great. Now, they'll probably have more money for a sequel, so he'll probably look better. But I do kind of wish they had at least partially had a guy in a suit, because what they're trying to do is mimic it, and it just doesn't.
Is this like the Fallout 76 thing, that the suits don't seem to have the weight because they're digital?
Well, the suits are practical, but they look foamy when they move, so they flop a little bit. So it's a similar disconcerting effect, though. You're correct. There is this kind of offness of his movements that I think is because they are trying to digitally mimic a person, and it can't do it. I mean, it just can't do it. So, especially because I would assume they probably motion captured somebody. Well, if you're going to motion capture them, why not just put a guy in a suit on a green screen and just put it in there? It'll look fine. It's going to look better than this. It doesn't look bad. I'm not going to say it looks bad, but it's very clear what it is. It is missing that weight. And there are parts where it's sort of weird in the way he moves. And again, I think it's because they're taking a digital effect and they're trying to make it look like a person, which is sort of weird.
Neat if they kind of did away with that altogether and just tried to mimic animals.
And that's when he first shows up. He's like Jurassic Park, where he's like the T-Rex. He's down low and that looks fine. Also, it's at night, so you don't see a lot of it, but he's moving like a T-Rex, or like a raptor, I guess. I know T-Rexes did move that way. So a raptor. He's moving quick and he's moving viciously. And he looks a little less evolved, and he's hunched over. So he inherently looks scarier. When he's standing up, he's just kind of like dun, 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 because they're trying to make him look like a person. Because in the new movies, in the American ones, I mean, he's just jumping all over the place. It doesn't look real, but it's like, whatever. They're not trying to make it look real. Whereas in this, he's like, step there. Mm-hmm. And the only part of him that's really fluidly moving is his tail. Like, they're whipping the tail all over the place, which, again, sort of offsets this stiffness to his normal move. I mean, I'm actually literally, like, moving with my arms at my sides like that. It is that kind of movement. And what's funny is it's the middle of him is what throws you off. His head looks like the facial animation, or whatever you want to call it. His head animation is fantastic. He looks terrifying. When you see him just staring, it's a really good effect. Like when he's swimming at them, it is very disconcerting. Because imagine in Jaws, if the shark had just been kind of swimming after them half above the water, and he had yellow eyes that were just staring. It works really well because he's moving very in the water. Like he's moving like a shark. Like he's kind of swimming back and forth. You just see the big spikes and the head, and just only from really his nose up from there. So you're really seeing his eyes are just staring. I think the clip is on live where you can see it. I saw
the photo of it.
It's in motion. It looks, because it is literally a predator who's like, yeah, you're fucked. I'm going to get you. You're not going anywhere. Without, of course, him looking like Tom or Jerry or something like that. It's not that ridiculously cartoony, but he has this look of, it's just a matter of time, assholes. I'm going to get you. And then the only reason he doesn't is because that other cruiser shows up and he's like, oh, okay, something bigger to bite with more people on it. Sure, I'll go after that. Plus, it's hurting me more. But then when he's just standing there, when he does the atomic breath and the bomb goes off, that's great. Because he's just kind of rears back, and then they do the thing where the spikes come up as it charges. I have to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of that either, but that's been done before, so I can't.
I like that they light up.
I like that they light up. I don't need the pieces shooting out, but I know what the explanation is, which is that is a way to offset the heat. They're like,
It runs it through there so he doesn't overheat.
Yeah. They're cooling coils or whatever.
I've read that. Yeah,
it's fine. I think they dwell on it a bit much, but again, these are
guys.
nitpicks.
It's a made up atomic lizard. We're good.
Right. Yeah, that's why it's like the light up thing. Like when they do it in the American movies where it lights up and that noise happens, it's sensational. I fucking love it. And then we hear like, and it just runs up his back. It is. It's amazing. I fucking love it every time they do it. So, but again, it's a sensationally good movie. It's great. I'm not really complaining. The irony is I feel like Godzilla is the weakest part of it, which maybe is intentional, and that's fine. Not weak as in the way they use him. They use him brutally, which is what the Japanese versions have done many times. And
that's why you can't have so much of him, because when he is there, he is absolute brutality.
Right. And I think in that way, it's exceptionally well done. I'm glad they did not use him a lot because it would lessen him. When he shows up, it is a multiple casualty event. It's not one person. It's, the fewest, let me think about this. The fewest people he kills is 8 or 9. And that's when he shows up on that little island. That's only because there's only like 11 of them there. So he still killed 90% of the population of that island at that point. They're mostly dead. And he thought he killed the pilot. So in his mind, he got 9 out of 10 and completely permanently screwed up the leg of the mechanic. So 9.5 out of 10 on the Godzilla scorecard. So he was doing really well in terms of percentage of death. And then when he shows up everywhere else, it's, lots of people are dead now. So again, I think all of the usage was good. I'm just warning people because they play him up in the trailers a lot. You see him a lot more in the trailers.
They're gonna give you the best parts in the trailer, like always.
Yeah, but it makes it seem like he's going to be in it more than he is. So I'm just saying, especially if you thought the 2014 didn't use him enough, boy, you're not gonna like this one. I mean, the only rebuttal to that, which is very accurate, is the 2014 one also had very boring humans, except for the one that they killed early on. So yes, I agree. They had better characters in this one. So that particular mistake that the American movies have made again and again and again, where the human characters could just be excised almost entirely. This movie does not have that particular deficit. But in terms of percentage of screen time for Godzilla, this is not going to be like what a lot of people associate a Japanese Godzilla film, where he's all over the place doing stuff. No, he is used as an instrument of death and destruction, and so his deployment is limited for maximum effect. I have no issue with it. I'm just saying as a warning to people, because based on the trailer, you might think he's all over the place blowing stuff up. He is not. But he's great. I mean, they did make him terrifying in a way that the new movies really never, the American movies, I should say, never really even tried to. I mean, he really was only scary because of his scale, but he was never really that frightening as a creature. So, outside of that, though, I think it's phenomenal. As many other people have said, this is not me having some kind of rogue opinion. The movie is beloved, and
no, it sounds interesting.
Yeah, like I said, for you, I think the appeal would be the actual heavy featuring
the World War II-ness of it. Yeah.
Yes, it is very much about the Japanese mentality of a survivor of this, and particularly somebody who didn't buy into the nationalism of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the very essence of somebody who didn't buy the government's line, starting the movie as your main character throughout, and really only gets involved when somebody he knows is affected. Otherwise, he's happy to be separated from all of it. So it's an interesting point of view, because he is regarded, and depending on what your viewpoint of, especially I would be, I mean, there's no way for me to know this, but I would be fascinated by the reaction to this character by actual World War II veterans of Japan who bought into all of it.
I was going to say, I don't know how many kamikaze pilots are still alive today.
No, but it's not just them. It would be people who felt like they were doing an honorable thing to save the country.
Yeah. Well,
this character in those eyes is a traitor.
He is, yeah.
So, and he is the hero of the story, who really, let's be honest, only becomes heroic when it affects him directly. He doesn't suddenly go, yes, I have to save Japan. He's like, that thing killed the woman that I knew I was in love with all along and just couldn't say it. So now I'm going to become the thing that I wouldn't be for the rest of the country, which is accurate. So it's when you break it down, it's an interesting film in terms of the character and what that character is doing. So yeah, at some point you should try to make the time to watch it if you can, because I think you would get more out of this than probably any other Japanese or American Godzilla film, except maybe the first one, which is also very big on the effect of the war on Japan. But that's much more of a direct, here's what the bomb did to us movie. The first one is really Godzilla is the bomb. And that's what you're seeing is his effect on the country and the terror that the bomb being dropped did to Japan. That's the first movie, the original 54 one. Mm-hmm. This is the closest to that there's been as far as I've seen and as far as I know. So in that way, it is interesting because it is much more of a war film. So, and that's it. I wasn't going to review anything else because that was me talking about it for 50 minutes as it is.
No, it's interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say, unfortunately, I don't know when you can watch it in the U.S.
Unless you want to go to the length that Joe did.
Yes.
You're gonna have to wait for a little bit, but when it comes out, it'll be good.
And I would imagine within probably in the next 2 weeks, it'll be on alternative viewing sites. I'll say
they want to make money. It'll come out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, there's got to be some reason, but you know. So it's. I'm not going to say it's not difficult. A lot of people probably already have a VPN. The most annoying part is having to live translate the Japanese. But, you know, most phones now can do that. I mean, mine does it really well. I was actually shocked because I don't really use it all that often. And it did it really, really quickly and really well. I mean, don't get me wrong. It wasn't giving me poetry in Japanese.
No, but this was the process to actually download it. To watch
be able to rent it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the irony being that afterwards I remembered, oh yeah, I probably could have just run a translate filter like I did in the browser. But like an idiot, I was sitting there pointing my phone at a screen. So be smarter than me and just use the translate feature in your browser. Because it'll be quicker. And obviously you'll have to watch it on the computer with the VPN because if you try to then watch it somewhere else that isn't, unless you have a VPN in like your Apple TV or something.
It will say no.
It's going to say you're not in the right region. So I would suggest doing all this on the machine you plan to watch it on. That'll make it a lot easier for you. That's all. That would be my one piece of advice is don't do this across multiple devices unless you really know your stuff correctly because it's really annoying otherwise. But if you are willing to take those steps, I think you will find it worth it. I think it is actually a very good movie. And obviously I couldn't clip it because it was all in Japanese. So.
Oh, yeah. Jesus. Yeah. I just realized that. There was no clips because it's still.
No, this is all me explaining it, which is now kind of unusual for this, but there was no way to clip it.
No, you know what? And this is what I'm used to. I'm used to you just like telling me the story of it and just kind of getting enthralled with my own mental imagery of it.
And I would say even if there had been an English dub for this, I would not have watched it with this because I think the
original Japanese, the emotion is better translated.
Yeah, the emotion, even if you don't understand it, when you know what they're saying, is still really, really good. So, yeah. And that's it. So, good luck trying to watch it. I hate saying that. I think it's a shame that it's not just available worldwide at once.
Good luck getting it, or you know what? Just wait for it.
Yeah, like I said, it's not hard. It's just if you don't have a VPN.
It's hard if you don't know how to do it.
Yeah, if you, this is why I'm recommending as a bit of a tech tip, do it all on let's say a laptop that's connected to a screen, right? Because then it's pretty easy. All you have to do is anybody who uses a VPN, when you run a VPN, one of the things that comes up, almost all of them that are good, comes up and says, well, where do you want to be? So if you do it on the same machine, you just don't have to leave that machine. You just stay there and you just rent it, start watching it right there, and you're done. The tricky part is if you start going across devices. So my recommendation would be have a laptop that you can run out to a bigger screen, or if you have a nice screen attached to your laptop, hey, perfect. And do it all there because then it's simple. Because if you already have a VPN, you know how to use it. And like I said, it'll come up and say, where do you want to be? And you say, connection here. Then you're done. It's if you start trying to jump between devices, because you can run a VPN on your router. You can do all that stuff, but it's a hell of a lot easier just to run it on a laptop because it's just the one place. So that would be my recommendation. But however you manage to do it, you'll probably have a good time with it. And like I said, as long as you're okay with the fact that it will be minimal Godzilla, but used as the horror device that he was originally set up to be, then it's a very, very well done World War II movie that happens to have a giant monster in it. On that note, whatever you choose to watch, atomic powered or not, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.